We kick off with Mamiya Yudo's life, just a regular salaryman clawing through the grind in the sales department. He's out on his rounds, getting absolutely crushed by the brutal summer heat. Trapped in a full suit, he seethes in silence at his company's ruthless dress code. He drags himself down the sidewalk, wincing with every single step of that miserable commute. His job is a soul-crushing grind at a predatory company, and he feels trapped there like there's no way out. It's a never-ending grind, overwork all day, packed trains every morning, and wages so low you're barely scraping by. And right there, just for a second, he finds real comfort outside a little local bookstore. Right now, the only thing keeping him sane is his one and only fresh obsession, a light novel series. A total nobody gets ripped out of his boring life and dropped into a whole new world. Then the universe hands him cheat abilities to survive and dominate. And deep down, Mamiya can't stop dreaming about the exact kind of escape that would rip him out of his reality. He drops a heavy sigh, already bracing for the brutal work waiting right around the corner. Then from the darkness, a voice snaps out that it's finally tracked him down. Mummy's eyes blow wide with pure terror the second he spots something that shouldn't exist. A tiny cloaked figure huddles on the ground, just waiting for him to show up. His mind is racing like crazy, desperately trying to figure out why his brain swears there's a ghost in the room. But right before he can even shout, his whole body crumbles into dust. And suddenly he's tumbling into an endless, pitch-black abyss. A shadowy voice booms out of the void, greeting him like it knows exactly who he is. Then boom, a blinding flash of light detonates in his senses. He stumbles backward when the voice blurts an apology for the sudden transition. That voice comes from a tiny ethereal spirit, glowing softly with a serene smile, who casually drops the bombshell that Mamiya is getting shipped off to another world. His thoughts slam together like puzzle pieces, and suddenly it clicks. This is the exact iSky transfer he's dreamed about. He tries to wave it off as some crazy dream, but the thing steps in and confirms it, like it personally dragged him here. It bursts into a dazzling fantasy world where magic crackles in the air, knights clash in steel, and dragons loom like living nightmares. All Mamiya can think about is one burning question. Will his cheat abilities spill out of his novels into real life? Then a brand new, condescending voice suddenly booms through the emptiness. A smug-looking man pops in and starts laughing at the whole idea of Mamiya getting any powers. The crushing reality of Mamiya's situation hits so hard he can't even get a word out. He immediately tries to bail because he knows no normal person would stand a chance. The smug man lifts Mamiya like she weighs nothing, smirking as he tells her his miserable life forged him into the perfect candidate. Mamiya stammered because she couldn't deny the brutal truth pounding out of the man's words. He still remembers when fantasy was just a harmless escape, when he dove into as a kid, chasing every new world like it was right there within reach. But that hobby was all it took. 1 second later, he got dragged into a world where death isn't a possibility, it's the guarantee. That smug little smile hits him like a flashback, his boss's empty promises all over again. And just like at his job, if they're forcing him into this, he's going to find a way to outsmart the system and game it. He stares that man straight in the eyes, pushing for the answer. Was he picked just for this? He lays everything bare. No magic, no real skills, just a body hammered down by years of brutal overwork. He roars that dumping him like this is basically a death sentence, proof that they've just tossed away a summoned hero like he's nothing. That ethereal thing looks totally calm, but Mamiya's explosive outburst has clearly sparked something in it. A fierce spark of determination ignites in Mommy's eyes. He clings to every sliver of leverage, begging for any advantage he can get. Yeah, even pleading to be de-aged into a kid. The creature makes him a deal, one rare concession, the power to see his own status screen. Mamiya detonates in rage, screaming that this isn't even close to the cheat power he needs to stay alive. But this otherworldly being snaps out of patience and shoves him away without mercy. He dives straight into the portal, and the horror hits instantly. Not an ounce of power has soaked into him. As the being disappears, it stops for a breath and stares at the life it once had, long blessed, long gone, like a memory nobody remembers anymore. A sinister grin creeps across its face, and it can't help but wonder, will Mamiya unlock his full potential or shatter completely? Mamiya hits the ground with a heavy thud, grumbling curses at that acorn-headed god under his breath. He's suddenly left alone, dumped without warning in the heart of a thick, unforgiving forest. He scrambles for cover on the spot, ducking behind a massive rock. His brain is yelling, "I'm built for RPGs, not survival games." But then it hits him, complaining has zero time to waste. A sudden idea hits him like lightning, freezing him in his tracks. He stares at his own hand like it betrayed him, and confusion flashes in his eyes. He clings to the memory of his desperate plea, begging to be turned back into a kid. Part of him can't shake the thought, did he push his luck and get way too greedy with what he asked for? After that brutal fight, all he walked away with was a cold status screen and a shockingly younger body. His negotiation skills were utterly useless here, just like they'd been in his old life. He tries to claw his way out of the crushing feeling that nothing will ever get better. He reminds himself this is way too early to quit. Before darkness crashes in, he has to lock down shelter, snag clean water, and hunt down food. First thing he does is rip through his stuff and check everything he's got. He dumps the boring stuff from his salaryman briefcase like it's the most normal thing in the world. Those leather dress shoes are totally doomed on this rough terrain. And that suit is about as useful for survival as a paper shield in a storm. But his stomach kept rumbling, and then frustration finally hit its breaking point and boiled over. But deep down, something kept poking at the back of his mind. He spots a tiny white circle drifting in the corner of his vision. He narrows his eyes, wondering if this is finally the gift they swore would come. He yelps in shock when he reaches for the floating icon. Right in front of his face, a huge screen suddenly bursts into existence. His eyes blow wide with disbelief as he gapes at the impossible sight. That status window is a giant wall, so big it smothers his view of the forest. He stumbles backward, getting hit with a wave of overwhelm from that sudden interface. A ghostly memory of that ethereal being flares up, jeering at how damn inconvenient this screen is. It flashes his name, Mamiya Yudo, and his stats look so painfully average they practically sigh. He scrolls down, and just as despair creeps in, a tiny spark of hope ignites when he finally spots the skills section. Right in front of him lies a jaw-dropping menu of over 100 skills he can master, one by one. The UI looks like a full-on game map, with clear routes that let you unlock powerful advanced abilities. But the moment he spots the number at the top, his excitement crashes, 0 skill points. He decides to carefully log his starting stats, just like he's setting up a character in a game. Then right at that moment, some rustling bursts from the bushes nearby, tearing his focus to pieces. He snaps around in full panic, and his heart starts hammering like it's trying to break out of his chest. A ferocious horned rabbit explodes out of the undergrowth, its eyes burning with pure malice. He snaps back to it. He'd been so glued to that status screen that he dropped his guard completely. It looks like some low-level monster, but Mamiya can tell this thing is in 0 condition to fight. His first instinct kicks in: watch the enemy like a hawk and read the next move before it even happens. He can already feel that giant horn driving straight into his chest. Just the shock of it would be enough to drop him for good. With no way to heal that wound, he realizes charging straight in would be suicide, so he has to cook up a better plan. He instantly figures it out. The horn isn't just decoration, it's the monster's main weapon. So basically, its biggest weapon is nothing fancy, just a brutal, straight-up charge. A plan snaps into focus in his head, and before anyone can blink, he yanks off his suit jacket, getting ready to smash it into a makeshift tool. The rabbit's eyes snap onto its target like a laser locking in, and it rockets forward with shocking speed. Mamiya yanks the jacket in one brutal motion and flings herself aside just as everything whips past. He slammed it blind with precision, then dodged its deadly horn at the last second. The beast staggers, utterly lost as the sudden darkness crashes down. Mamiya predicted the strike flawlessly, and now he's bracing for the next move. With no other weapon left to grab, he yanks the tie right off his shirt collar. He clenches his teeth and silently says goodbye to that pricey custom suit like it's the last thing he'll ever wear. He rockets onto the beast's back and cinches the tie tight around its neck. Mamiya throws his full weight into the fight, pinning the thrashing creature in place as it fights to break free. A rabbit thrashes like crazy, but he clings on with sheer desperation. With one last savage tug, he drives in the finishing blow and ends it. He roars that the toughness of his pricey tie is no joke, and don't you dare underestimate it. He drops to the ground beside the wrecked monster, holding his breath like, is this finally the end? His heart hammers in his ribs as he gasps for air, and the adrenaline starts to drain away. Beneath the forest canopy, Mamiya erupts in a triumphant roar. He's beaten his very first trial and lived to celebrate. But the rush of his first win hits a wall fast, because now he realizes he has to hunt down a safe place to rest. He spots a massive tree and immediately starts thinking, can I climb that thing to get a better view and ditch the threats crawling around on the ground? He has no other tools, so he grabs his belt and improvises, using it like a grappling hook to pull himself in. He hauls himself up the rough trunk, fighting for every inch like it's the toughest climb of his life. He shoved his de-aged body straight past its breaking point. He yanks himself up and plants his body on a high branch like he's barely hanging on. From his brand new perch, he sweeps the horizon with sharp, searching eyes. But all he can see stretches out forever, an endless ocean of trees. Not a single trace of civilization, just an endless forest stretching out forever, like it'll never let them out. A familiar mocking presence bursts back onto the scene, and this time it's clear. It never came for jokes at all, it was trying to kill him from the start. Even as exhaustion starts to drag him down, a brand new thought sparks to life in his mind. He figures out that if he can read where the sun is in the sky, he can at least nail down which way he's headed. His eyes snap to a gap in the canopy, and he prays that what he's seeing is a river ahead. And just past that far-off mountain line, there's a chance that, at last, humans are building a settlement somewhere. That crushing despair finally starts to loosen its grip, and right there, like a tiny spark, hope for what's next flickers to life. Fueled by fresh resolve, he slams down the words that he'll conquer this forest. He erupts into a manic, sarcastic laugh, throwing his fist up like he's cheering for his own, happily ever after isekai life. But that furious outburst throws him off balance, and down he goes, tumbling off the branch like gravity just grabbed him. He crashes into the floor with a brutal thud, instantly longing for the comfort of his bed again. First, he has to track down that river, and he can't stop wondering whether that horned rabbit even makes for a meal. With his mind set like steel, Mamiya steels himself for the next move. He snaps a look at his watch and realizes, this thing can clock the hours and even track the sun's position. He'd totally spaced on his watch, because it was a slick solar-powered model with a built-in compass. Armed with this brand new sense of direction, he grabs hold of the cliff and starts climbing it. But then bam, he's jolted by a weird, multi-eyed bird that belongs to this world. His fear melts into pure curiosity the moment he spots what that bird is up to. It's pecking at a bunch of strange, unfamiliar fruit, like it's testing the odds that they're actually safe to eat. He carefully reaches out and plucks one from the branch, praying it's not poison, because if it is, his journey dies right here. Cornered with no escape, he takes a shaky bite, tensing up like the universe is about to hit him hardest. But the second it hits his tongue, joy explodes across his face as that sweet flavor floods his senses. Survival locked in, he bolts to the trees and grabs every fruit he can get his hands on. He grabs a second to savor that tiny win, and for the first time it feels like he's finally getting somewhere. Without thinking, he taps his status screen, hooking for any sign that it's changed. And then bam, a weird new progress bar pops up out of nowhere, flashing the word asterisk gathering. He stares at the fruit in his palm, and suddenly a wild theory starts clicking into place in his head. He figures out that when he brawls or scrounges for food, he doesn't just survive. He levels up and picks up the skills that come with it. The moment it hits, the whole world clicks into place like a real-life RPG, and Mamiya is absolutely glowing with excitement. A bold smile cracks across his face, like he finally found his opening, and if he keeps it up, survival might actually be within reach. Just as his confidence blooms, a sudden rustle from the nearby bushes snaps it all away. Hiding behind the leaves, his eyes bulge at a sight so unbelievable it feels impossible. He just couldn't shake the gut feeling that this forest wasn't empty, that smarter beings were out there, waiting to be discovered. But unlike that horned rabbit, this humanoid creature spells danger he can't afford to play down. It's a goblin, one of those classic monsters that leaps straight off the pages of his fantasy novels. In the blink of an eye, its predatory stare snaps onto him like a trap. The creature erupts in a savage roar, its jagged teeth bared like a threat. Mamiya feels his blood turn to ice, one tiny spark of hope gets instantly crushed. The goblin surges ahead, eyes burning with pure hateful malice. He barely slams himself out of the way before the attack can hit him. Scrambling across the ground, he clutched the only weapon he had left. With a last-ditch lunge, his pen slices straight into the creature's eye, right on the mark. The goblin staggers backward, screaming in raw agony after that sudden hit. But Mamiya snaps to the truth fast, he was way too naive to pull it off. He figured a goblin would be easy trouble, then it snarled back with brutal, no-mercy intent. This isn't some brainless game NPC. This thing is alive, and it's fighting like it has nothing left but its own life. Its claws dug deep into his shoulder, and the pain seared through him like a warning that this fight wasn't a game. He knows it's time to crush every last hesitation and finish this for good. Adrenaline slammed through him as he broke free and crushed the creature, pinning him, driving it hard to the ground. He slams his makeshift weapon down again and again, refusing to let the fight end any other way. At last, the creature stops fighting, its hand goes limp and sinks into the grass. Mamiya wheezes and gasps, finally swallowing the brutal truth, surviving will cost him everything. He can't stop replaying his own carelessness, because he knows this fight could have gone way smoother. The first thing he focuses on is that brutal gash on his shoulder. He has to get it tended right now. That's the cold wake-up call. This isn't a game anymore, and he has to keep his eyes peeled every second. Just as he swings around to go, he spots a strange thing lying behind, right where that goblin hit the ground. His eyes blow wide with pure shock at what he's seeing. Plopped on the dirt is a severed human arm, still armored, still unmistakably real. That grim discovery hits him like ice-cold shock, and it screams just how brutal this world really is. Then it hits him, bam, sudden realization crashing into his mind like lightning. He stares at the wound on his body, like it's proof that everything just went wrong. A searing agony suddenly rips through his body. His eyes burst open, and pure primal terror hits him like a punch. He stumbles back in panic, eyes wide, already praying he isn't about to face the next wave of nightmare. Then from the dirt, a tiny mole-like creature bursts up, screaming out a weird, unsettling cry. Mamiya's tension snaps in an instant. She spots the little creature, and against all odds, it somehow hits her as downright cute. He can't stop wondering how something this harmless could have been the spark that kicked off the whole attack. But the moment the creature fires off a brutal blast of magic, his doubt evaporates instantly. Not knowing just how wide or deadly its power really was, Mamiya had no choice. He braced himself and threw up a defense. A spinning projectile rockets straight at him, like it's hunting him down. It crashes into his briefcase with a thunderous, ear-splitting slam. The force slammed into him and sent him stumbling backward, and there it was, a big rock he'd stuffed inside for protection. When he finally feels it through that briefcase, he realizes the force is brutal. One clean hit would be instant death. His busted-up shield is already smoking, and he knows there's no dodging the next hit. With no way out, Mamiya lunges ahead, cutting straight through the distance. The mole-like creature fires off yet another bizarre cry, and it acts like nothing even happened. But when Mamiya closes in, the thing tilts its head, totally baffled. He whips the heavy rock he's been using for defense and hurls it with everything he's got. The projectile hits dead on, smashing the tiny creature with brutal, devastating impact. It crumples to the ground and its attack dies out for good. Mamiya gasps for breath, realizing the brutal truth: blast any ranged threat before it even gets the chance to move. Right then, a system notification flashes on screen, and he finally hits level 2. Mamiya slumped against the tree, crushed by the fact that hitting level 2 had been pure brutality. He knows he can't truly rest out in the open, not while danger is stalking every shadow. Those back-to-back brawls with the goblin and the mole have pushed him clean past his breaking point. That brutal ache from his shoulder wound jabs him back to reality. He needs clean water, and he needs it now. He's filthy and bone-dry, stumbling like he's seconds away from crumpling into the dirt from sheer exhaustion. Then from far off he catches a faint, steady drip-drip rhythm. He freezes on the spot, jerking his head up as he scrambles to figure out where that sound came from. A desperate hope flashes in his eyes as he gasps for air, like he's fighting for every breath. A sudden gap between the trees flashes with bright light, bouncing off something shiny, and there it is, confirming every one of his suspicions. With a triumphant roar, Mamiya rockets toward the source, his survival instincts grabbing the wheel for good. He slams his briefcase to the side and dives headfirst into that cool, crystal-clear water. He found it right there in the endless forest, a tiny waterfall like a hidden sanctuary calling his name. After days of filth and dehydration, he finally snatches a life-saving drink. He snaps to it instantly. This river isn't just water, it's packed with life, teeming with fish like a free meal waiting to be caught. With that horned rabbit he'd just slaughtered, he scored a fresh stash of meat. Mamiya pauses, grinning at how clever he is, because he just rigged up a slick little fish trap out of scraps. In his first catch, he clenches the prize and decides, all right, time to put this to the test. He's about to test his luck and finally unleash that fire magic he's been locked onto since he spotted it on his status screen. But first, he spots the perfect hideout for the night, a tiny cave tucked right behind the waterfall. Worn to the bone but still out of danger, Mamiya finally gives himself permission to breathe and rest. He slams open his status screen, praying his level up is finally gonna save him. With those 2 earned points burning in his pocket, he goes all in on his very first skill, fire magic. A huge grin explodes across his face as he drops the very last point he needed. A system ping flashes, he just nailed level 1 fire magic. Mamiya throws his fists up and erupts in celebration, fired up like he just unlocked his first real power-up. But the moment he starts reading the skill's description, that rush of excitement crashes into straight-up confusion. He'd dreamed of unleashing giant fireballs, but the description is maddeningly unclear. With no other option left, he steels himself and starts testing this new power, right there, right now. He locks in his will and jabs a finger straight at the roaring waterfall. With a bold shout, Mamiya lunges into his very first spell, like he's daring the world to stop him. He pauses, obsessing over every last detail of how to cast the spell. He roars out the spell's name, praying it detonates into something truly legendary. But nothing at all happens, and that emptiness makes him wonder if he picked the wrong hand gesture. He charges forward again, slams his hand out harder, and drives it straight ahead. But the forest stays deathly quiet, and his spell flat-out refuses to appear. He flashes a fearless smile like he planned every bit of it. But the frustration hits critical. He's already poured his only 2 skill points into this. He clamps down on his panic, forces his mind to lock in, and thinks like a calm, logical machine. He remembers the mole creature, summoning a choking dark mist right before it launches its attack. He finally clocks it. Without the knack for shortened incantations, he's skipping the one thing that matters, the real chant itself. He realizes he can't just think it. He has to speak the words or the incantation won't come alive. He clears his throat, suddenly feeling like a total fool as he braces himself to follow the rules of this brand new world. With a dramatic flourish, he summons the spirits of fire, begging them to lend him their blazing power. But the world just sits there, his plea hangs in the air unanswered. He lets out this self-deprecating laugh like, did I really just pick the wrong word? So he steels himself and tries again, shouting for a fire orb this time. And just like that, his hard-earned efforts get crushed, again, by the most infuriating kind of failure. He throws every wild idea at it, begging on his knees 1 second, then breaking into full-on dramatic dances the next. His energy and hope just vanished, like someone yanked the life right out of him. Mamiya dove onto a tree branch and swore she'd erase fire magic from her life for good. He finally realizes the incantation demands this world's language, and he's got zero way to learn it. Absolutely crushed, he throws in the towel for the night and crashes into sleep. Then morning breaks, birds start chirping, and it feels like the whole world is begging for a brand new beginning. Mamiya strides along the river, his stomach rumbling as he daydreams about finally getting a real, properly cooked meal. Right when he's about to get lost in his thoughts, he spots another figure lurking by a campfire out in the distance. But the closer he gets, and bam, he realizes it's just another goblin swinging a crude club like it's nothing. This time, Mamiya means business. He digs a tiny fire starter out of his belongings. He unleashes a blazing flash of light that slams into the creature and leaves it briefly blinded. In that blink of an eye, he rockets forward and crashes a brutal punch right into its jaw. The goblin rockets through the air and Mamiya's eyes widen, like, wait, he's not panicking anymore, he's starting to get used to it. He shoves his fire magic disaster to the side for the moment and locks in on the real urgent issue, getting food. Right then, bam, a system notification blares that he just hit level 3, and to top it off, he's unlocked a brand new skill called Lunge. He's frozen in total disbelief, staring around like, where did that even come from? He yanks up his status screen and frantically tears through it, hunting for that brand new ability. He finally digs it out under the other category, a clean, no-nonsense skill named ***lunge***. The description clicks, it's a short-range dash, and Mamiya's face instantly lights up with pure, unstoppable joy. Without even a blink, he fires it up, blurting the skill's name like a challenge. But just like his fire magic, nothing, absolutely nothing moves. That familiar sting of failure hits him hard again, crashing into him like a painful reminder of his magic attempt. He can't help but think, maybe it only works if I keep moving, so he steps forward just one and tests the moment. He fires off a second attempt, shouting the skill's name as he rockets forward into the attack. With a blur of speed, he's suddenly a few feet away, and his eyes are blazing, pure, wide-eyed wonder like a kid seeing magic. He realizes he doesn't have to yell the name at all, one clear intent, and the right move are all it takes to trigger it. He knows it's not a true combat move, but he's betting it'll be the perfect setup for a surprise strike or a fast escape when things go south. The only problem he can see is this. If the ride gets crazy, his dress shoes might just get yeeted right off his feet. Once he finally snagged a safe spot to crash, he practically boasts that tonight's bed is the best he's ever slept in. The soft, mossy ground feels like a dream under his feet, and he decides this cave is officially his new base. Right before he crashes, he yanks out his notebook and meticulously logs every status change. Now he's level 3, and you can straight up see his intelligence and agility spiking fast. He calculates in a flash. If the top cap is level 99, then sooner or later his stats can climb into something truly respectable. He daydreams about a future where he's a max-level, muscle-bound hero tearing through the world. For now, he locks onto the data and starts guessing. What if his skills are stacked with bonus stats that could supercharge his whole growth? Still, that fire magic keeps its secrets, and he can't wrap his head around the fact that he suddenly learned Lunge out of nowhere. That twisted flash of the horned rabbit hits him, and suddenly a wild new theory ignites. Maybe it was a reward you only got for wiping out a certain enemy. He reels back through everything he's done, from picking fruit to clashing with monsters, and realizes every single one of those moments fed his next level of skill. It all starts to click. If his theory hits right, then hunting monsters isn't just fighting back, it's the fastest grind for experience. He figures out that everyone in this world somehow picks up skills that fit their daily life, like it's basically an RPG leveling system. A faint grin flashes across his face, the moment those old video games he used to live for hit his mind again. He still remembers those games, packed with players carving out their own way to lose themselves in the world. But out of all of them, Mamiya had one obsession, crushing, overwhelming strength at any cost. He still remembers when he ruled the server as the top player, so feared and unstoppable they started calling him the Demon God. Getting kicked out of college turned his life into a dead end, but somehow it was the wildest, most fun stretch he'd ever lived. And then he stares at his notes, and suddenly it hits him, this new world is tailor-made for him. That brutal grind hits like a tidal wave, levels, stats, and skills, chased again and again until it all blurs into one endless obsession. He shakes himself back to reality. He reminded himself now he was an adult, and he couldn't keep falling back into the same obsessive loop. For tonight at least, he can finally breathe out, sink back, and drift off into dreams of what's coming next. The very next day, right as he's working, a familiar rustle bursts through the grass and shuts everything down. Yet another mole-like monster erupts from the ground, fists up and ready to scrap. But this time, Mamiya wrecks the monster in seconds, planting a triumphant pose over his crumpled, defeated body. He slams the ground with a victorious roar, and just like that, he crushes a second mole creature without breaking a sweat. His risky plan finally clicks, and a system ping flashes. He's already hit level 5. He's mastered this brutal little plan: bait them out, knock them out with a rock, then rush in for the kill. He realizes those mole hunts are the fastest way to stack experience, way easier than fighting goblins. Then he can't help but wonder if those club-wielding goblins are actually some rarer, way more dangerous breed. But just as he's mapping everything out perfectly, a sudden crash from above rips his plans to shreds. He peeks around the tree with bated breath, trying to figure out if it's just another goblin, or if something brand new and terrifying is lurking. But his eyes blow wide with shock, because it isn't some monster after all, it's a human. He catches a child's panic scream and launches into a full sprint without a second thought. His eyes burn with desperation as he prays he'll reach there just in time. He clocks it instantly. The mole creature's nothing but a decoy, yanking everyone's focus somewhere else. It hasn't even clocked him yet, too locked into the chaos roaring ahead. Mamiya drives in a furious kick, drops the pest on the spot, because she knows this is only a sign of something much bigger. A terrifying thought slams into his head: what if those moles are out? That can only mean one thing: something way bigger is lurking right nearby. Then he spots them in the distance, kids sprinting like their lives depend on it. 3 of them total, while one terrified boy desperately fought off a whole pack of goblins. But these aren't run-of-the-mill monsters. One of them is even brandishing a real sword. That severed armored arm sparks through his mind like a cruel flashback. With his resolve forged in steel, Mamiya rockets into action, refusing to let anyone else die on his watch. He barrels to the boy's side, roaring that he'll handle not 1, 2 goblins. These young swordsmen can only lock eyes, mouths hanging open, totally shocked that this total stranger has just shown up. He blurts out in total shock, then fires off questions at Mamiya's crazy, sudden claim. Mamiya just tells him, trust your judgment, while the goblins close in like a nightmare. A surge of determination ignites in the boy's eyes. And just like that, this wild, unlikely duo braces themselves and steps up to smash the horde head-on. Mamiya steadies his nerves, smugly sure he can pull off a 1-on-2 brawl. They both realize the first strike decides everything, so they explode forward, trying to snatch the upper hand the instant the fight starts. A goblin swings that stolen blade like a weapon meant to end everything. But his own attack misses by a hair, and panic kicks in as he scrambles to dodge. He answers with a savage hit of his own, driving the creature down like it's never getting up again. With the first goblin down, he whips around instantly and locks eyes on the second. He's already mastered the routine, flicking his fire starter just right to carve out a perfect opening. He hurls the creature aside, and his gaze snaps straight to the swordsman. But that armored goblin wasn't playing around. It slammed a brutal hit straight into his shoulder. The hit slams Mamiya back on his heels, and his makeshift tactics collapse the second he tries to fight through it. He clenches his teeth, and that sharp pain crashes in, screaming how breakable he really is. He knows one more hit like that will break him, but he refuses to fold. He won't back down. The goblin roars like a war drum, lining up the final, crushing blow that will decide everything. Right then, the young swordsman steps up fast, like he's about to crash back into the fight. Mamiya yells at the boy, demanding to know if he just beat his opponent. He snaps his eyes across the battlefield, clocking the armored goblin, still totally oblivious to where the boy is hiding. The young swordsman spots his opening and rockets forward to meet it head-on. His eyes burned with raw, unshakable determination. But Mamiya's throat tears as she screams a desperate warning, finally clocking what the goblin is really trying to pull. The creature snatches the blade with its bare hand, and a twisted grin spreads across its face. The monster's claws sink into the boy's arm, and the brutal gap in power hits like a nightmare. But Mamiya won't let this fight die. She barrels in from the side like a lightning strike, refusing to give them a moment to breathe. He drives in the final game-winning strike, then a system pop-up flashes. He's finally hit level 6. With the danger finally wiped out, the kids burst into total, breathless relief. But the second he opens his mouth to talk, he freezes, because not a single word lands with them. The kids can only blink in total confusion as the young swordsmen raise a hand, daring them to make sense of it. Mamiya tries once more, pleading with them to hold up, just wait and see if they can finally understand him. But when he speaks, all he gets are stunned, blank stares that don't understand a word. He finally clocks it. Those precious skill points are going to have to vanish into language comprehension. But the more he looks, the more his frustration boils, because level 1 only hands him vocabulary a 5-year-old would know. The kids stare in stunned silence, completely thrown off by his wild, sudden mood swings. He forces himself to breathe, telling himself he just needs one more level to finally talk like a real conversation. He slams every last point into the build, erupts in victory, and hits level 2 like it's the greatest moment of his life. His sudden manic outburst erupts, and the children freeze in terror, shaking all the way. He blurted out a frantic apology for jumping them, insisting he had no choice at all. The kids can only gape in total shock as he throws every last point into one single skill. He whips around to the girl and finally blurts out, "Can you understand me now?" The young swordsman nods, says he can, then admits he's never once heard of learning a language from prayer. The word goddess slams open a memory of that otherworldly being who dragged him into this world. Shoving the thought aside, Mamiya leans in and asks the kids if they live anywhere around here. They said they were hunting a horned rabbit for a nearby town when goblins burst out of nowhere and ambushed them. Their story spirals fast into a full-blown blame war, with everyone snapping over who really caused them to get lost. The girl snaps back that she'd pinned everything on those young swordsmen to keep everyone safe. But he snaps back, saying anyone in their right mind would bolt the second they saw goblins swinging a real sword. Mamiya can't stop herself. She breaks into a grin, and the loud argument somehow feels oddly comforting. After all that lonely time, he's finally breathing easy. Just being near other people feels like everything. He still remembers the day he naively thought this whole world worked just like a game. But the truth was brutal. Every wrong move slammed the door on his survival, and death waited right behind it. And at last, after all this time since he arrived, he finally gets to talk to someone. Her voice slices right through his thoughts, and her face screams concern. He can barely choke out a word, tears of pure relief pour down his face. He quickly brushes it off, blurting out that he's just insanely relieved to finally run into another human. The young swordsman shoots them a question: can they really reach their town before nightfall? But the second they see their exhausted friend, they realize escaping that forest is going to be a lot harder than they ever hoped. Mamiya spots that heavy basket crushing the other boy's back. No mistaking it, he's completely worn out. He tells them to get out before nightfall, then hands over one of his own tools to light their way. The kids' faces light up with pure wonder the moment they spot his sleek, modern flashlight. They instantly decide it's a magic tool, and the weird clothes on his body practically shout, "He's a noble." Mamiya frantically swears they're wrong, insisting he's just an ordinary guy. The young swordsman jabs a finger at the river, swears he knows the route, and Mamiya nods, letting him take the lead. With their fate locked in, they stride forward and take their first steps toward civilization. A tight little crew kicks off their journey into the thick, shadowy woods they've never seen before. Right along the road, the young swordsman spots a horned rabbit, and he immediately surges into a full sprint after it. With a sharp practice slash, he drops the creature fast, locking in their meal for the road. The young swordsman wipes the blood off his blade with ruthless care after the kill. Then he whips his head toward Mamiya and asks, "Can I borrow the goblin's sword?" He tells them there's zero time to harvest monster parts, so he might as well whip out his brand new weapon and test it right now. Mamiya's totally lost. She has zero idea what magic stones even are, and she's clueless about subjugation parts too. He fires off a quick question: can those be collected and sold? The boy answers like it's the most obvious thing in the world. The kids break it down. This place keeps them fed, pays the bills, and brings in cash, even if the stuff they haul out of that forest isn't worth much. Once again, they decide he must be noble. Then they stare at him like he's insane for not knowing something so basic about their world. He panics and vehemently denies it, insisting he's nothing but a low-class corporate drone. The girl totally mishears him, lights up instantly, and blurts out if a corporate drone is some kind of wild creature he keeps as a pet. Mamiya lets out a heavy sigh and asks, "So us three, are we officially a party?" With a bright grin, the girl lays it all out. Jink hunts, she's on gather duty, and Pada hauls the supplies. Mamiya fires off a question: aren't you scared of the forest? And they answer, "We sell herbs and fruit for a living, we do it even if it's terrifying." She tells him her family are pharmacists, but medicine costs a fortune, so she's forced to grind for every last bit of money. Mamiya can't help but stare in awe at how mature that young girl is. Then he whips his head around, and his heart drops when he realizes one of them is gone. It's Pada, the third boy, barely able to keep moving under the crushing weight of his pack. Mamiya answers and tells the boy to slow down, stop forcing himself, and take his time. Pada just stares back, totally baffled and wiped out, like he can't even process what he's seeing. He finally reels in the group, breathless, and blurts out an apology for how painfully slow he'd been. Mamiya whips around to the girl, and the moment she realizes it, she jolts, because Pada can't understand a single word he's saying. Pada says he was ordered to pray to the goddess for the power to understand the language. He's still stuck torn between those two choices, one path blazing, one path farming, and Mamiya's over here treating the whole dilemma like it's hilarious. Then it hits him, he realizes their prayer to the goddess is basically the same system as his own skill points. But before they can even finish talking, Jinx snaps to it. Something's coming and it's not in the trees, it's under the ground. He leans in and tells everyone the mole creatures hate loud sounds, then taps his knife like bait to draw one out of the ground. And just like you called it, one of those familiar mole creatures explodes up from the ground. Mamiya's jaw drops as Jink proudly tells her that his hunter father taught him everything he knows. He asks Jink if he's really planning to be an adventurer, and the kid shrugs it off like it's nothing. He tells you the real monsters up ahead are way stronger, so he's in zero rush to charge forward. But Mamiya can't shake the creeping worry that's building for Pada and the girl beside him. Jink tells them straight up, now that his father's gone, he's got to power up fast so he can back his mother and keep their world standing. Mamiya stares in shock as the young boy drags around a burden far too heavy for him. He finally sees it. Those three kids aren't just brawling, they're each clawing through their own desperate fight just to stay alive. Then it hits him, this savage reality is just normal to kids his apparent age. He can't stop wondering, do they still see him as noble, even after he keeps shooting down that idea again and again? Jink cracks the tension with a grin, realizing they still haven't even traded names yet. Mamiya knows he can't use his real name here, because once he does, it'll sound totally out of place in this world. Right on the spot, he blurts out the very first thing that pops into his head. He steps forward and reintroduces himself with a brand new name, Loki. But even he has to admit it feels weird trying to say that name out loud. The kids' eyes bulge with shock as they realize that name belongs to the legendary Demon King. A memory suddenly crashes in, his past self back when that name carried a totally different kind of weight. Loki just blinks in total confusion, clueless why everyone's staring at him like they've seen a ghost. He remembers the game world where he turned his name into legend, then climbed until he became the server's strongest player. It was the name of his in-game avatar, an absolute menace, feared as nothing but the Demon King. He never planned to show his status screen to a single soul, crafted as a gift by the very power that dragged him into this place. And he'd never once imagined he'd have to hide behind a fake name just to make it through. But he still remembers the rush of battle, the kind of high you feel when his status climbs higher with every single win. He still can't shake that old gaming habit, the one where he's obsessed with landing the final blow. He once chased the dream of reaching max-level master, and in his heart, he felt that title belonged to him more than anyone else. He still remembers the nasty persona he built for himself, and now that name makes him cringe like crazy. But he can't stop wondering how that one name somehow snowballed into this totally bizarre mess. The kids burst into cheers and shout that his all-black outfit matches the legendary Demon King from their bedtime stories. A cold thought snaps through his head. What if the legends were wrong and those characters are still alive somewhere? He can't stop wondering if that acorn-headed god summoned him just to force him into the role of this world's villain. But the second it crosses his mind, he shuts it down as pure fantasy, right while the kids keep chattering away. Trying to act chill, Loki pressed them for more details about the story. Jink's jaw drops. There's no way this guy, dressed exactly like him, doesn't know the legend of the Demon King's subjugation. A terrifying Demon King burst out of the darkness, and in an instant he took command of an army of monsters. And a legendary hero dropped from the heavens, racing to crush his tyranny and save the world. Jink proudly hypes it as the legendary saga of Hero Takuya, the one story everyone swears they know by heart. Loki smirks to himself, brushing it off as another tired tale of some hero taking on a demon king. Then the name Takuya slams into him like lightning, an instant jolt of shock as everything clicks. The kids leaned in and swore this hero was no ordinary fighter. He was a prince from some far-off kingdom. The girl bursts out that he was ripped from another world, and comes packed with insane cheat-level powers. The truth hits Loki like a lightning strike, pure fury. That acorn-headed god hands the powers he got shut out of to someone else. He can't help wondering if anyone else has been dragged into this place too, and Jink's stories make it feel more than possible. She keeps dreaming about a stranger from another world, totally clueless that one is standing right beside her. Jink snaps her down on the spot, reminding her, plain and brutal, they could never scrape together a trip to the capital. Their heated argument gets snuffed out instantly when Jink spots a new mole creature exploding from the ground up ahead. Jink points to the one on the right and tells Loki, I got this, and Loki nods like, cool, then I'll take the other. The two of them glide forward in total sync, carving through the creatures with flawless, practiced precision. And for the very first time, Loki actually feels real camaraderie. It throws him right back to his old gaming days, back when a perfectly synced party could smash through any challenge. Back then, he'd always play solo, so obsessed with squeezing out every bit of efficiency that nothing else mattered. He glances at the kids, his first real companions in this whole messed up world. And for the first time ever, a wild question hits him, what his future here could actually look like. With the danger finally fading behind them, the crew bursts out of the forest in one last sprint. Jink beams and declares they've finally made it to safety. Everyone exhales in instant relief. The girl steps in and offers to share Pada's heavy load. And that tiny act of kindness hits harder than you'd expect after a long, brutal journey. Loki can only gape, completely stunned by what's right in front of them. Far off, the town's lights finally slice through the twilight like a promise. The girl breaks into a bright smile and ushers him into their home, right in Bazet, Town of Dreams. But the moment they show up, an irate guard barrels in and snarls, demanding to know why they're so late. The kids barrel straight past him, and Loki's shocked silence hits like a punch. The guard snaps them in place in an instant, then rips into them for their reckless stunt. Loki watches the familiar scene unfold, a tired yet gentle smile tugging at his lips. After Jinx spills his story, the guard whips around to Loki with pure grateful relief. He thanks Loki for saving the kids, then snaps his focus straight to the goblin's sword. Jinx surges forward and thrusts the blade out like hard proof of their claim. The guard stared at the blade, stunned by how flawless it looked. He takes one look at it and goes, "Whoa, this weapon is top tier, way better than what goblins usually drag around." He steps up and officially welcomes Loki into Bazet, hailing him as the kids' savior. Jink thrusts the sword back toward Loki and declares, "It's yours now, this blade belongs to you." But Loki snaps, "Keep it," and admits it's way too massive for him to use in the first place. Jink snaps that it's a raw deal, and he flat out says he can't even use it properly either. The guard slams them to a stop and orders, "Deal with it at the Hunters Guild tomorrow." He tells them the guildmaster has to be informed about that armed goblin, because stuff like that almost never happens. With everything finally settled, the kids huddle up and thank him one last time for all he's done. Loki brushes them off with a weary grin and promises he'll see them again tomorrow. The girl flashes one last bright, cheerful wave as the children vanish into the loud, crowded town. As they leave, Loki yanks up his status screen, and boom, a brand new theory starts cooking in his head. He realizes the power he trained for didn't just help, it hit way harder than it should have, because that final strike on the mole gave him a totally unfair amount of experience. If he truly wants to get stronger, he's gonna have to ditch that lone player mindset and team up with real companions. Just when he finally started getting hyped for some party play, now he's stuck panicking about getting caught in a kill-stealing mess. Conflicting thoughts slammed into his head, and his mind spiraled into pure panic. But he shrugs it off on the spot, then pushes forward, zero hesitation, so he can finally explore the town he fought tooth and nail to reach. A real smile cracks across his face as he soaks in the buzzing energy of the market. His gaze snaps straight to a stall where sizzling meat skewers blaze over the flame. Before anyone could blink, he snatched up one on the spot, craving his first real meal in this strange new world. But the vendor shuts it down with a single answer, and it snaps him into a wild, manic burst of laughter. He freezes in place, and that mouth-watering food smell hits him like a cruel joke. In his panic, he totally blanked the one detail that mattered: he has zero money. His only hope is to track the kids down and with pure desperation plead for a loan. The next morning, he jolts awake because a wild commotion is pounding up from downstairs. A few folks have crowded in below, all staring and pointing up at the criminals sprawled and sound asleep in the town's tree. Loki can only force out a stiff little smile, and the humiliating memories of last night come crashing back. Everything was going perfectly until the moment he tore himself away from the kids. And then a mysterious beat, or whatever you call it, sent food prices skyrocketing, so he had no choice but to sleep outside that night. He can only fantasize about a world where the second he crushes an enemy, cash just rains down from their defeat. Her voice slices through the morning air as she finally closes in on him. Jink instantly snaps at him, chewing him out for turning that into a full-on scene. The girl tells him, "We would have helped you if you just admitted you had nowhere to sleep." Loki can only stare, cheeks burning a little as she blurts out where they're headed. She shoots them a direction straight to the Hunters Guild. She rockets ahead, breathless, and tells him the others are already waiting inside. Loki strides through the doors, and the moment his eyes land on the sheer size of the place, they go wide with shock. Jink is already tearing into the request board, and the moment he sees how it's built, shock hits him hard. The guild hall sprawls like a living battlefield, roaring with activity straight out of his own games. That mouth-watering food hits his senses again, and his empty stomach instantly screams for it. The girl blurts out an apology for being late, and when they finally reach the table, everyone else is already sitting there. But the second Loki's eyes snap to that food, pure hunger detonates in him and takes full control. He lunges onto the table, breathless and desperate, begging Pada for one single bite. That first taste hits him like lightning, sending him straight into pure, unfiltered bliss. That juicy meat and perfectly seasoned bite are exactly what he's been starving for. A soft hand lands on his cheek, and that voice praises him for his non-stop hungry appetite. He jolts back to reality stunned and starts wondering who on earth that voice belongs to. In front of him stands an elegant woman, smiling like she already knows everything, and she tells him his future is about to explode with promise. The second she shows up, the kids light up and shout, "Amanda," without even thinking. She whips around to Loki, verifies it's really him, and then summons him, right there so he can face the guildmaster. Loki just freezes there, staring in pure total confusion. He racks his brain, trying to remember what he did to deserve all this attention, only to realize the only thing he can recall is his own lazy survival tactics. Amanda tells him to wait, then she lightly nudges him up the stairs. She ushers him up to a massive pair of double doors and calls out, "We're here." Loki creeps into the room, but the fear in his chest keeps swelling with every step. A tough, stern-looking man steps in and declares, "I'm Yargov, the master of the Bezet Hunters Guild." He shoots his left hand out and gives a perfectly formal left-handed greeting. Loki takes the handshake, smirks, and introduces himself, using the name he chose. Amanda slides their drinks over as they sit down to talk through what just happened. But he can't stop wondering why she decided to slide right up next to him. Amanda wastes zero time and bluntly tells Loki to accept it. The moment he spots that pile of coins, his eyes flare with hope, because this is his first real paycheck. Yargov leans in and tells them it's not just a prize, it's the reward for saving the three kids. He even drops a deep bow for the town's mayor, thanking him with nothing but pure sincerity. Loki stammers that he was only trying to save himself, then almost reluctantly grabs the money with a grateful nod. The guildmaster leans in and offers him the spot on the spot, saying only someone with his skills belongs in the Hunters Guild. Amanda warns that once you join a guild, you'd better think hard, because leaving town later isn't as simple as you hope. Yargov leans in and breaks it down. This guild isn't some local club, it's an independent force that stretches across multiple countries. Loki takes a sip, and the moment he clocks the guildmaster, tough as nails but undeniably good at heart. He flashes a small smile, and you can tell he gets exactly how heavy this offer really is. Yargov tells them he can spot someone's origin just by the way their mouth moves. Loki leans in, utterly fascinated by this weird little way of figuring things out. The guildmaster leans in and mutters that Loki's way of speaking is totally unlike anything he's ever heard before. He drops the bombshell. 10 days ago, 2 local hunters vanished in that exact same forest. And right before they vanished, one of them had just snagged a brand new sword. Yargov leaned in, demanding to know why Loki, someone who wasn't even a hunter, was out in the forest in the first place. That sudden tone flip punches straight through Loki's chest with panic. Yeah, he's definitely a suspect. He clocks that a sloppy lie will just blow everything up, so he forces himself to tell the truth. Loki admits he can't even explain what he's meant to be doing, but then snaps back that he wouldn't be here at all if he were guilty. But Yargov wastes no time, straight up asking if he managed to spot anything out there. Loki leans in and admits, "Yeah, I found a human arm, but a goblin had already started tearing it apart." Yargov listens to the silence settle in, and he's certain the hunters aren't coming back ever. Loki wastes no time and offers to bring the sword right back to the hunter's family. But the guildmaster presses the matter, telling him to hold on to it, because the man had no other relatives left. Loki can only crane his neck and fire off a stun on silence, totally blindsided and caught off guard. Yargov swallowed his pride and apologized for doubting him, admitting the whole mess was way more complicated than it looked. Once the interrogation finally ends, he pulls Loki aside and officially invites him to join the guild. He flashes a warm, welcoming smile and pulls the boy into their ranks. Loki flashed a quick bow, then vanished from the room in a heartbeat. As soon as the door shuts, he slumps against it, utterly wiped out from everything he just survived. Loki's thoughts spiral out of control, and the guild master's words land way too close to his own secrets. That sharp, relentless stare punches him right in the chest, like it just drags someone from his old life back into the room, his managing director. A man who always played the sweet, grandpa-like mentor to the younger staff. But his eyes burned with cold, ruthless truths he could never fully bury. Loki instantly regrets what he said earlier because dealing with people like this, he's absolutely awful. Meanwhile, Amanda clocks something weird. Yargov is way too obsessed with just one kid. She blurts out a wild theory and demands, "Do you remember those weird items we dug up 6 years ago?" Strange items, mystery shoes, a cracked glass plate, and even a watch were all stamped as top-secret national treasures. And now Loki shows up with the same kind of watch, still perfectly working, no glitches, no excuses. Yargov decides Loki isn't hiding a thing. His suspicion was just a gut check to see what kind of person he really is. Yargov tells Amanda to keep tabs on Loki but warns her, don't dig too deep. She takes the assignment with a confident, almost playful grin like she's already got it in the bag. The guildmaster refuses to let Loki's real plan stay hidden, and that weird name only makes it feel even more suspicious. He stares out over the town, praying Loki's arrival will finally light a fire under everything that's been stuck. As Loki turns back to head downstairs, Amanda leans in and drops her final piece of advice. He knows joining the Hunters Guild is the one move you have to make if you want any chance of surviving this world. The guildmaster sinks into a quiet pause, feeling the crushing loneliness that comes with holding everyone's future in his hands. Even after that brutal interrogation, Loki walks away with a swaggering belief. He's sure he can not just survive here but thrive. The kids immediately pounce and demand to know how his meeting with the guildmaster went. With a triumphant grin, he flips open the bag of coins he fought so hard to earn. He flashes his earnings with a grin, bragging that he finally hit the big time. The kids just gawk in awe, completely hooked by the raw, unstoppable force of money. Loki learns the reward didn't come from some random source. It was the town's mayor handing it to him personally, as a direct thank you. The girl insists that a real guild request would have cost even more. Then Jink cuts her off in an instant. Loki's eyes widen the second someone brings up the threat of punishment. Jink admits this was a rare special case, because in most situations, rewards are handled in a totally different way. But Loki couldn't shake the gut feeling that the guild master's words were hiding something huge, something he was never going to say out loud. He shoves those worries to the side for the moment and claps his hands together like, "All right, let's move." With cash jingling in his pocket, he calls it time for a celebratory meal. The kids light up instantly and you can practically hear their joy explode. The instant the town bell rings, his mind snaps into motion, time to officially sign up as a hunter. Loki strides up to the registration counter, and Amanda greets him with a teasing, playful smile. She steps up with a formal smile, says she's the Bayzet Guild's receptionist, and then casually admits he's already her third favorite. Loki can feel that winning her over right now will come back around and save him big time later. Amanda cuts right to the chase. She asks if he's ready to register and shoves the official paperwork into his hands. He pauses for a heartbeat, then finally understands. Once his name hits the page, the door slams shut behind him and there's no undoing it. Amanda casually leans in and asks, "So, do you even know how to write?" Loki insists he's got this, and he shoves the unfamiliar quill across the parchment like he's daring the ink to keep up. Once the form was done, she told him the card would take a while to process, and then she jumped in to walk him through how the guild works. Jinx breaks it down. This guild isn't for hanging out, it's built for monster subjugation missions. But she adds that for the lower-ranked members, there's no shortage of weird side jobs, running around, gathering supplies, and helping everyone else. Loki demands to know his starting rank, and Amanda tells him everyone starts at the very bottom. The system runs on 8 tiers, starting at G and climbing straight up to S, and hunters can only take quests that match their level or stay under it. The girl's freaking out because she fears that without special permission, his choices will get cut down to almost nothing. Pada stares at the poster, dying to know what the special promotion is all about, but the girl shuts him down with a grin. It's a secret. Then Loki leans in and asks, "So, is there some kind of promotion exam that'll let me rank up way faster?" Amanda lays it out clearly. The real practical tests kick off at B rank, and once you hit S rank, you'll have to face an interview with the Grand Master. She tells him straight up, if he wants that special promotion, he's got to show the guild what he's truly made of. Loki grins like he just cracked the code because this world is a real meritocracy. Work hard and you'll be rewarded. It's a brutal contrast to his old life, where hard work was really just a fancy word for getting exploited. Right then, Amanda yells that his guild card is finally ready, boom, and his brand new beginning is officially locked in. Loki grins as he proudly shows off his fresh G-rank guild card, and Amanda tells him she's expecting greatness. Once the formalities were done, she leaned in and offered to answer anything else he wanted to ask. She swears the guild master himself told her to keep an eye on him, while Yargoth quietly refuses to back down. Loki doesn't care why they offered, he's just relieved they're stepping in to help. He blurts out right away, "Where should I hunt?" and demands the best spots people swear by. Amanda tells them that for low-rank hunters, the Palmyra Great Forest is basically cursed. Nobody wants to go near it. That first stratum hint snaps Loki back to what Jink told him earlier. Those shallow waters are made for beginners, because the monsters there are weak, like goblins and horned rabbits. But the deeper stretches of the forest are pure mystery, so Loki can't stop himself from digging in. Amanda tells everyone the forest is stacked in strata, and the monsters get stronger the deeper you plunge. Loki finally realizes the forest is so huge, it eats up a full quarter of the entire continent. A top-tier dungeon sitting right beside the starting town. That's his favorite kind of trope every single time. Then he blurts a make-or-break question. If he isn't on an official request, does he even have the right to hunt at all? He quickly asks, half curious and half wary, if monsters can actually drop rewards outside the official quests. Amanda looks instantly irritated, like the question is so painfully obvious that it's almost insulting, confirming that there are. She tells him that emergencies might not come with a paycheck, but at least you won't get punished for stepping up. Her eyes lock on his face, and the moment she stares down at him, her gaze turns into a no-nonsense warning. But Loki's eyes light up. He totally misreads her tone as a dare, and he charges straight into the deeper forest. His mind is already set. Now he's even more determined than ever to take down the forest. Amanda finally snaps at him, demanding he finally understand the system and start valuing his own life because one more reckless move and he's not coming back. But Loki doesn't even blink. He shrugs off the setback, flashes that smug grin, and fires off his next question like he owns the room. He grilled her for answers, and the poor receptionist looked utterly wiped out. Amanda finally snaps and tells him, if you're so curious, then read a book. She tells him the guild's archives are locked down tighter than Fort Knox, and if he messes with them, the fallout will be brutal. But that warning only feeds his thrill. His grin goes wild, stretching across his face like he's losing control. He strides off, finally exhaling with relief, because he snagged the info he needed without setting off any more alarms. He shoots a quick look at the request board, and there it all is, carved and written on rough wooden planks, not paper. A voice he recognizes shouts his name, and he whips around instantly to see who's calling. Jink whips his hand up, grinning like a show-off, and waves him over to flaunt his brand-new guild card. With a matching grin, Loki flashes his own card and seals it. This is the start of his brand-new life as a hunter. The girls propose splitting the earnings, and Loki instantly clocks that her numbers are way off. Jink snaps around to Loki and asks, "You've got a plan before you go sell that goblin sword?" With a bright, mischievous grin, Loki instantly offers to tag along. Jink charges down the crowded streets, gesturing hard toward the weapon shop just ahead. The shop's stern blacksmith leans in, eyes locked on the blade, and sizes it up before throwing out his first offer. Loki's eyes flare bright as he shoots in and instantly starts haggling for a ridiculously higher price. The other kids brag about how brutally they battled for that sword, and swear they're splitting the earnings into 4 equal shares. But the blacksmith just lets out a weary sigh, like their plea is nothing more than background noise. He folds his arms and snaps that he won't swallow a loss. Then he offers a lower final price if they're willing to split it evenly. Loki's expression crumples as his very first attempt to negotiate detonates into total, humiliating failure. Loki drops his gaze, and for a moment it looks like he's finally accepting the blacksmith's last offer. Then he blurts out it's a used sword, so they'll just sell it off outside anyway. The blacksmith gives a rough nod and confirms that's exactly what he's set to do. Then Loki grins and drops the truth. He's already spotted that same sword for sale, and the price tag was a whole lot worse. The blacksmith goes wide-eyed. Loki steps in and points out the massive profit margin like it's already his. He tries to puff himself up and bluff his way through, claiming he's not going any higher. But Loki only grins, like he's about to drop his final game-ending move. He points to the hunter who just bought this very sword 10 whole days ago, and asks if the blacksmith was just trying to sell it all again from the start. The blacksmith clenches his jaw as Loki swoops in with a brand new price that's way better. He even sweetens the deal by throwing in a tiny dagger as a personal gift for Pada. The blacksmith finally gives in, swallowing Loki's outrageous price, while the kids erupt in cheers like they just won the whole world. But once the deal's locked in, Loki wastes no time. He immediately asks how much it would cost to buy that exact same dagger. With his pockets finally stuffed, he upgrades his gear at last, and vows next time he'll spend smarter. He finally snags the perfect spot to sleep, and for the first time, his whole new life starts to click into place. It's the first time in this whole world he finally gets a real bed he can call his own. After sleeping like a champ, he swings out of bed, snaps into gear, and decides it's time to get back to work. He pauses to soak in every little detail of the town, those glowing magic lamps, the wooden request boards, the whole vibe alive around him. But just when he's about to soak it all in, Amanda steps in and blows him away with a compliment about his fresh new look. He skips the small talk and fires off straight questions, grilling her about the exact request he's locked onto. He's locked in on that F-rank request because it comes with special permission tucked inside it. But Amanda lines in and spills the catch. She shrieks that he has to build a party, and then slams him with the reminder that he's still just a rookie. Loki can't believe it. Party play brings him 0 real perks. He gets the whole point of splitting the crew, hunter up front, scout on watch, and a carrier to haul everything. But he's so sure he can take down the forest monsters by himself that he refuses to share the brutal lessons he fought for. He fires off a silent apology to Amanda, then slips out, only for the town guard to slam the brakes on him. The guard flashes him a warm grin and warns, "Get back before sunset," like he's calling him out of danger. That sudden worry slams into Loki like a trap he never saw coming. He stares at the thought of worry like it belongs to someone else entirely, because it feels utterly unfamiliar to him. With a smug wave, Loki tells the guard he'll be careful, then turns and slips right back into the untamed wild. He rockets back to the first stratum of the Palmyra Great Forest, primed to start the grind all over again. He starts crunching the rewards in his head, and one thing clicks: those mole creatures are the real money makers. For now, he decides to unleash his brand new skills on a plain horned rabbit. He tracks every twitch and flicker, and uncertainty darts across his eyes. Remembering how effortlessly Jink dealt with that same creature, he steals the courage out of thin air and refuses to falter. His first swing is sloppy. He misses the rabbit and smashes straight into a tree instead. But he snaps back fast, grinning because his higher level sharpens every move he makes. He realizes even for a normal guy, his status screen is a goldmine. Those perks hit like a cheat code. Fresh confidence surges through him as he hunts with brutal precision, and every kill sharpens his skills even more. With these brand new skills in his pocket, he's convinced he can crush a goblin, no old tricks needed. He slips past the creature's sloppy swing like he's done it 100 times, and drives his brand new dagger in with a crisp, unstoppable strike. That familiar rush hits him hard, and the real, solid feeling of progress instantly drags him back to his old gaming days. With a fierce shout, he vows to keep dropping them, one after another, no stopping. But then the truth of what's left behind finally starts hitting him, one brutal realization at a time. He drops beside the broken creature, and the adrenaline starts to drain away. Then bam, a brutal wave of nausea crashes into him, hitting so hard it knocks the air out of his lungs. And then it hits him. This isn't just scary, it's brutal, sickening, and painfully visceral. That sharp smell and the way it hits your skin slam you with the truth. This isn't a game anymore. The only thing he knows about this comes from a long-forgotten science class dissecting something long ago. But the truth, it's way messier, clumsy, brutal, and it only gets worse with every single second. He reaches into the creature's chest, and then hits something solid, a shocking discovery he never saw coming. With a shaky breath, he yanks it free. Then his eyes widen, because it has to be the magic stone Jink was talking about. In his palm, a tiny crystal gleams, his first real spoils from the hunt. Next, he starts the harvest of the subjugation parts, beginning right at the wrist. He carefully hunts for the joint, and every step of that brutal task grinds his resolve down to the bone. And with one last horrifying task finished, it's finally over. But it took him a full hour just to grind through one measly goblin. He stares at his hands, and the brutal truth of his new job hits him like a punch. He drops to his knees by the river, scrubbing hard, desperate to wash the filth off his very first real hunt. Amanda's words ring in his head, but he's still convinced going solo is the fastest way to get things done. Rage boils at his own naivety. This isn't some retry and reset game, because once he fails, that's it. Blood slicks his hands, and his brand new knife is barely good enough to cut. But letting frustration win won't do a thing. He's got a quota to hit, and he's going to hit it. With sheer grit blasting through him, he drags himself back to work. Back at the guild, he shows Amanda his haul, and she can't hide her surprise at how he crushed the armed goblin. She's honestly blown away, calling it an insane amount for a first-timer. Her piercing stare locked onto him like she could see every secret in his soul. Then she clocks his messed up look, and Loki's world instantly spins into pure embarrassment. Amanda snaps, unleashing pure fury and chewing him out for stepping out totally unprepared. She can't believe he's really asking about basic equipment after he nearly got himself killed. She jabs a stern finger at him and barks, "Go wash up right now." Loki storms off, stunned to the bone, only to realize they just treated him like a kid because he is one. With his hard-earned coins in hand, he finally stuffs himself with a real meal from the guild cafeteria. He tears into the food like it's his last lifeline, craving blazing from days of pure survival. After everything that happened today, his nerves were fried. He barely touched his food and only asked for something cold to drink. An ice-cold glass of water lands in front of him, crisp and refreshing. But the moment he sees it, he freezes in place, eyes bulging as a sudden realization hits him like a punch. The vendor leans in and asks what's wrong, but Loki can only stammer out that it's nothing. He's by himself in the guild, quietly clocking every single patron like he's hunting for something. His eyes lock onto a man sporting a pair of glasses that look way too familiar. He still remembers his old boss, snapping that the style back on Earth was centuries behind the times. It's just one more weird anachronism he's clocked. This wild clash of old school and brand new tech all at once. Yeah, this world's history is totally twisted, but now the contradictions are piling up and they're starting to scream. And it all traces back to one guy, Takuya, the so-called hero, who somehow carried modern knowledge with him. He flashes on the consequences for a split second, then snaps his head side to side, forget the rest. Survival is all that matters right now. Meanwhile, Amanda storms into the kitchen with a bold request burning on her lips. The cook shoots her a look and instantly guesses she's talking about the new rookie. He says Loki's first hunt haul was seriously impressive, even if the whole setup looked like it got scraped together in a hurry. The cook needles Amanda, grinning like, "What a pity, watching you get this flustered over some rookie is almost funny." He tells them if this promising rookie crushes it and bags big money, our guild hits a jackpot too. Back at his table, Loki locks in his first big goal, a brand new short sword that costs a small fortune. He kicks off his research, hunting down the truth about the low-rank monsters that prowl the plains. But once you push past that edge, the real nightmares wait. Spiders crawling in the shadows, wolf packs stalking in sync, and even colossal orcs ready to smash everything in sight. He realizes that if he wants to dodge that gruesome harvesting work, he'll have to rip up his hunting grounds and change them. He slams the book shut, fuming because that monster guide ranks them instead of using plain, simple levels. He knows that in a game he'd have barged for efficiency without thinking twice, but here, that same mindset will get him killed. Right then, Amanda's voice slices through his thoughts, and boom, she announces his earnings are ready. The cook stands there like a champion, proudly declaring his jaw-dropping haul, an insane amount he pulled in after only half a day of work. Loki's brain is completely shattered by how insanely rich he's become. The cook leans in and tells Amanda that's the rookie who just hauled in an insane catch. Loki snaps right away and demands to know if the quality of the materials will seriously change what he gets paid in the end. The cook nods and breaks it down. There's a 5-tier grading system and Loki's haul is stuck at B rank. A spark lights up his eyes as he leans toward the cook and begs, "Teach me the secret to scoring a high rating." The cook tells him, "Yeah, passion's awesome, but don't forget to rest too or you'll burn out." But Amanda slams the brakes on that idea on the spot, reminding him he's still a rookie who hasn't earned his stripes. Loki's mind spirals into non-stop scheming, mapping out the slickest ways to hunt, rake in cash, and upgrade his gear. Right then, a fresh voice cuts in, calling his name with a confident grin. She leans in and offers to teach him the hunting basics herself, and there's this mysterious spark in her eyes that says she knows something he doesn't. Amanda's smile isn't comforting for even a second. It's a warning sign, daring him to brace himself for a lesson that'll stick for good. Meanwhile, Loki is totally clueless, grinning like he's about to score the coolest new gear of his life. Amanda's got no chance. His endless energy wipes her out, so he's basically begging her not to push himself too far. Then she shoves a tiny silver coin into his hands and tells him to take it and keep it with him. He discovers this coin is no ordinary trinket. It's used at the local church to run a status appraisal. A wild thought sparks in his head. He's always wondered how everyone else checks their status without a screen like his. Right then, Jinx's voice slashes through his thoughts and asks, like she owns the moment, if he's done for the day. The other kids are right beside him, firing off. We were literally about to head out for an errand. Then bam, an idea snaps into place, lighting up our hero's mind. With a blazing grin, he thrusts the coin into Jinx's hands, insisting it's the perfect gift. Jinx can't stop staring. Why would Loki toss aside a free status appraisal? He admits it's been ages since the last one and still, he can't bring himself to accept. But Loki slams one condition on the table. He demands to watch the process unfold in this town, step for step. He brushes it off like it's nothing but curiosity, then can't stop wondering if it plays out differently everywhere he goes. It's a shaky excuse, but he's betting everything they'll buy it. Jinx tells everyone that the Blackstone slate will light up with every skill he's gained, and show their exact levels. Loki looks totally unimpressed, then shoots a question, is that really all it shows? He digs deeper, wondering if there are any more stats or numbers hidden in the mix. The girl snaps it all into place and blurts, wait, do you mean the total number of skills? She proudly recites her own status, totally blind to the horror blazing across Loki's face. Jinx tells everyone, keep your skills locked down, don't let strangers get a single clue. That girl can't wrap her head around it. Why would anyone hide their own abilities? Just as their argument heats up, an enraged nun storms in and tears into them, calling them a nuisance right at the church entrance. She snaps out of it in a heartbeat, and her eyes immediately lock on the strange new face in their group. The kids beam as they introduce Loki, bragging that he's a fierce new hunter who's been helping them. As they head toward the church, the nun offers to lend her a hand the moment he needs it. Loki flashes his slick corporate grin, gushes thanks nonstop, and vows he'll grind twice as hard. She pats his head and reminds him, every move he makes is under the goddess's watch. And if he keeps living with virtue, he'll finally earn her divine grace. But Loki knows the truth. This acorn-headed goddess isn't one, and she's definitely not watching over him. Jinx tells them that normal life grinds out experience, but if you want skills fast, nothing beats hunting monsters. Loki leans in, eyes sharp, and realizes the skills you can learn are locked to your level. Once the conversation finally ends, Jinx grabs the moment and declares it's time to hit the road, errands won't run themselves. Loki nods along, then admits he can't afford to miss dinner waiting back at his inn. The kids beam and wave goodbye, and with that, their job at the church is finally finished. He throws one last wild wave, then turns and heads back to his brand new temporary home. He finally stomps back to the inn, and seeing it again feels like a huge exhale after the longest day. Loki finally steps into his room and exhales a massive sigh of relief, like he's just escaped something terrible. He was genuinely grateful for the fish he ate for dinner, because there was no way he could have swallowed another bite of meat. The moment his hunt hits his mind again, he's slammed with the stink of it. The iron smell, the warm spray, and the brutal truth of what it really costs to take a life. He locks eyes on the lantern and the truth hits hard. This world is real, no doubt about it. His mind keeps slipping back to that acorn-headed weirdo who dumped him here. He finally gets what those mocking words were saying about his special gift. The nun's lecture on virtue was basically this world's way of handing out experience points and leveling you up. He once swore there was this unwritten rule: nobody's supposed to steal the final blow. But here's the real twist: no one else even has a clue about the experience bonus. Yeah, that obsession hits the skill list too, same deal. He can spot a whole tree of possible powers, but they only see the skills they've already unlocked. Their status appraisal is just a blunt check to confirm what skills they've already mastered. He's the only one who can read his levels, his stats, and his potential, like he got a built-in cheat code only he can use. And that's exactly why he can't stop treating this whole world like it's just another game. He shrugs off Amanda's concern the moment it hits, brushing away everyone else's worries like they don't even matter. He can't stop asking himself if those kids are only sticking around to use him for their own advantage. Back in his old world, he'd never once even spared kids like them a second glance. And right here, all that effort finally pays off. This is where he can actually break through and become strong. That old hunger for power, the same spark that forged his Demon King persona, starts clawing its way back into his mind. He swears he'll never let himself feel that helpless, miserable again. He knows if he slips into comfort, that acorn-headed god will sit back and let him rot. For one heart-stopping second, he panics. What if he's already too late to beg them to send him back home? But in the dark, a brand new resolve ignites. The moment the lantern dies in his room, darkness snaps shut around him like a trap. His mind snapped back to the legend of the Demon King, the nightmare in full black, dressed head to toe. A ruthless villain finally got crushed by the summoned hero, Takuya. Loki sneers at the whole hero idea, straight up saying he'd rather become the Demon King and crush the world with his own hands. The whole town sinks into a dead quiet night, like the darkness is staring straight at him, watching his new ambition ignite. He snarls at the acorn-headed gods, hands off attitude, and decides to take control and do it his way. He has no clue why they dragged him here, but he's dead set on living his life. No one else gets to decide it. And just like that, a memory of the three kids slams into his mind. He stares out the window, wrestling with one question: should he finally spill the truth about who he really is? But he shuts that idea down on the spot, knowing he'll have to guard the secret and never let it out. Next morning, Loki snaps awake in pure agony, his whole body screaming with pain from the strain. He realizes he's been battering his de-aged body way too hard these last few days. Ever since he showed up, he couldn't feel that acorn-headed god anywhere, not even a flicker. Stranded with zero guidance or mission, he's forced to figure out everything by himself. And right now, the real problem is simple: his body's stamina is completely busted. Because his status screen never listed stamina, he cracked his own training routine every single day for the past 3 days. He decides today's a break day, his body's already maxed out and begging for mercy. But that peaceful morning gets ripped apart when someone comes tumbling down the nearby hill. His eyes snap wide with shock when he spots that familiar face again. It's the three kids again, and they're sprinting for their lives like the danger is right on their heels. Jinx rockets into action, yelling that he's coming in to save the day. Dagger in hand, fierce determination blazed across his face. He drops that bizarre two-headed monstrosity in one savage, powerful strike. He whirls around to the person he just saved and asks, breathless, "Are you okay?" A tiny kid sprints straight toward a woman who, moments ago, looked like the one in real danger. The woman pulls the child into a warm hug and whispers, "Don't worry, everything's going to be okay." Loki and a second man lurk in the distance, and the guy can't stop gaping as the woman unleashes surprising raw strength. Later, Jink clocks in with the same man again, and he's like, "Damn, you're done early today." Jink leans in and tells him, "I already hit my quota, I'm just heading home now." The man stares in awe at his steady progress and declares, "You've got it, you're a promising hunter." But Loki slips in that he'd rather stay low-key, standing out is the last thing he wants. He gets it, then shoots back that he can't afford to watch his own income shrink. Loki's mind is sprinting ahead of him, already dreaming up the weapons and armor he'll snatch the moment his pay starts rolling in. The man basically tells him, "If you really want to stay out of trouble, then just quit. These hunters around here barely even change the game." Loki finally clocks it. The locals' plain, practical clothes aren't an accident at all, they're a calculated choice. Then it all clicks. Selling monster parts to those specialized shops turns out to be way more profitable. He knows if he wants people to call him a serious hunter, he's gotta show up with top-tier materials that leave no doubt. With a heavy sigh, he finally admits it. If he wants to rank up, he has no choice left. But as he imagines hauling all that reward money with him, a fresh wave of worry crashes down. The man whips around stunned and fires off. Wait, Loki, don't you know you can just toss your earnings straight into the guild? Loki's eyes bulge with pure shock as this revelation hits him like a punch to the gut. He bolts straight back to the guild, begging them to stash his money safely for him. Later, he lashes out at himself, stunned that Amanda never once mentioned this life-or-death detail. He can't even finish counting his hard-earned cash before he pictures bandits snatching it all in the blink of an eye. Or worse, the item vanished from his inventory like the game glitched and swallowed it. Lost in his own head, he careens into a total stranger on the street, and it knocks the breath right out of him. The man shoots him a warm apology, and Loki finally admits it was all his fault. As the man strides off, Loki whips his gaze back and spots the shop he just came from. It's a fancy jewelry store, and he's shocked, because he never in a million years thought he'd end up in a place like this. He peeks inside, and an elegant, mysterious woman greets him like she already knows his secrets. The woman flashes him a knowing grin and asks, "So you're here to trade your magic stones?" Loki's jaw drops when he realizes every single piece of jewelry in the shop is crafted from these exact stones. His eyes light up the second he sees it, and the woman can't miss the way he's completely transfixed. She leans in and offers to teach him a special lesson, right about those stones he's been obsessing over. She tells him straight up, the color of a magic stone decides what element it belongs to. She thrusts a small dark stone into his hand, and the truth hits him like a wave. He suddenly realizes the stone in his hand is a magic gem with a whole specific elemental power. Sure, normal stones keep daily life running, but she turns the question sharp. What do the rarer, non-elemental ones exist for? A bolt of game-changing insight slams through Loki's mind like lightning. She reveals a secret. These things don't just glow, they enchant weapons and armor, flooding them with crushing, powerful attributes. Loki clenches his fist, and his mind starts whirring like a war machine, spinning at full speed. He can't stop picturing himself dual-wielding blades, each one humming with a different element. The shop owner smirks, and you can practically see him already daydreaming about what he's about to pull off next. He can still hear that blacksmith warning him about the enchanter in town, but the price was so wild it basically shut the dream down. But before his excitement can even breathe, a shocking revelation slams the brakes on everything. She thrusts a rare top-tier magic stone into his hands. This one's worth a jaw-dropping 50,000 beak. Loki couldn't even blink. His eyes bulged when he realized that the mole stone was worth barely a sliver of the amount. She calmly lays it out. Earth elemental stones don't fetch much, most of them only get used for building. But Loki just can't wrap his mind around how wildly the prices swing. With a dazzling grin, she tells him, "Come back when you've made some real money." Loki turns away with a heavy sigh, and the weight of his brand new goals crushes down on him. He suddenly gets it. Basic gear already drains his wallet, and there's no way elemental enchantments are going to be cheap. But his imagination goes full throttle, painting wild possibilities of a future where he rules as the ultimate master of combined magic. His huge dreams get yanked to a stop by one simple thought: dinner's almost here. But that familiar aroma hits him like a punch, and he freezes in his tracks. His mind sparks a huge vision of a lavish feast. One bite, and suddenly he's tasting the world he thought he'd buried forever. He chases the scent through the streets, hooked on the mystery of what's so ridiculously good. He smashes through the doorway, and his mind just can't accept what hits his senses. His eyes bulge with pure shock as he finally recognizes the man standing right in front of him. A chef with a turban raised a ladle of curry and demanded, "Loki, do you know what this is?" Loki's face bursts into pure joy, totally convinced he knows exactly what this is. But the chef snapped his hand up and demanded, "Wait, hold on." He leans in and demands to know, does Loki really have the guts for what he's about to order? The man finally spills his one and only menu pick, an absolute spice masterpiece, and it'll set you back a jaw-dropping 9,000 beak. Loki's jaw hits the floor. The price is so wild it blows past every single thing he thought was possible. But his body already wants it, an unstoppable hunger he can't rein in anymore. With a desperate shout, he slams his money down hard and demands a plate. Right now. The chef's grin stretched wider, blown away by the boy's rock-solid determination. Loki's eyes glitter with pure anticipation, and his hunger spikes to its absolute peak. In front of him, a steaming plate of curry sits like a delicious certainty. A blast from his past crashes back when all of this was nothing more than a harmless lunch break. He plunges in for his very first eager bite. Then a blast of flavor hits so hard it wipes his senses clean out. That intense spice hits like a punch, so hot and so brutal it sears him before he can even brace for it. But even as the heat makes his whole body shake, he digs into the heat and finds a deep, savory flavor hiding right underneath the spice. He just can't help it, spoon after spoon disappears into his mouth. In the blink of an eye, that whole plate is spotless, every last trace gone. He finally pushes himself up, still trembling like the whole moment is vibrating through his bones. Tears of joy spill down his face as he leans in and blurts out a heartfelt thank you for that incredible meal. He throws one last wave at the chef, finally letting his aching stomach rest. He can't believe he just dropped 9,000 beak on one single meal. But that perfect flavor still haunts his mind, in the best way, so every painful second feels worth it. He bolts away with a brand new mission burning in his chest, swearing he'll come back someday. But as he keeps walking, that taste on his tongue hits him again, and it feels way too familiar to be a coincidence. He can't help but wonder if that insanely high price is really a badge, meant for the people who can actually pay. He knew he was being reckless, but one simple smell yanked him in, no hesitation, no second thought. Still, he couldn't stop smiling. The taste of that moment stays so vivid in his head. But right when he's finally savoring that piece, a voice blasts his name from the crowd and snaps him out of it. He snaps around, and there's a woman with a young boy, and she introduces herself as Mesa's mother, the girl who came from the forest. Loki snaps to it. This has to be Mesa's family pharmacy, and it hits him like deja vu, like he's seen this place before. Her mom admits she's in the forest all the time herself, so there's a real chance they've bumped into each other already. Right then, the shop door slams open with a thunderous clatter. It's Mesa who can't sit still, cheerfully tugging Loki along. Come play with us tomorrow. She swears it'll be a blast, promising they'll chill in the river and bragging they can even catch fish. The second the word fish hits the air, Loki's eyes snap wide and his full attention locks on. She doesn't wait a second, she bolts off to Jink and Pada shouting the good news. Her mom can only crumble into apologies, because the daughter's non-stop storm of energy won't let anyone catch their breath. That other boy starts flashing back to his own childhood, while Mesa's mother pleads with Loki to tag along. She pours out her gratitude, telling him she finally feels safe, because now she knows he'll be right there, ready to protect them. Loki grins and admits it. No matter what, as long as he's with the kids, he's going to have a blast. He bursts into a hearty laugh, totally tickled that it's the kids who just marched in and demanded his help. He remembers sparring side by side with Jink, straight up knowing that even if Jink got some status screen, out on the battlefield he's the real deal. Mace's mother suddenly blurts out a memory and slips him a tiny gift on the spot. She shoves a tiny vial of dark pellets into his hands. He stares down at the disgusting thing, totally at a loss for what he's even been handed. The boy leans in and tells them it's a special medicine, meant to crush the muscle pain and beat back the fatigue from his non-stop daily hunts. Loki's face brightens with pure gratitude, and he blurts out right away, "So, how much do we owe you for this?" But she just smiles and tells you it's her way of thanking you for rescuing her daughter from the goblins. Loki panics and blurts out that he refuses to accept it. He insists he has to pay, because that item is way too valuable to just walk away with. She stammers over the words, fighting to explain just how grateful she is. But Loki's thoughts instantly twist into something darker, wondering if this is just a flimsy placebo trick. She insists that even though she's genuinely grateful for his offer, there's no way she'll accept payment for something that pricey. Loki freezes in total shock, because the moment she sees it, she realizes her fear wasn't about him at all, it was all about his wallet. He recalls the pricey spices and herbs that give the curry its kick, and it hits him. This medicine has to pack the same lethal punch. So she hands him a basic stomach medicine, something that won't break the bank and he can finally afford. Loki snatches the fresh vial with a grin, thanking them loudly, and swears he'll come back the moment it actually works. He throws one last wave as the two of them watch him vanish into the distance. The very next day he heads to the river, and there, waiting like clockwork, are Jink and Pada, ready to kick things off. Mesa bolts to catch up, her wild energy sparking the whole crew as they gear up for a day packed with fun. Jink calls out Loki for grabbing a fishing rod, because even the cheapest one on the shelf was apparently good enough for him. He tells them that while Pada hauls the gear, he and Loki will plant themselves on watch and keep a ruthless eye on the road. As they slip through the town gates, Loki can't stop wondering how long this journey is going to drag on. Jink flashes a confident grin and figures the walk will take roughly 2 hours. The squad heads out in silence, and Pada can barely hold back his misery about the brutal long trek just to go play. Loki couldn't help but stare, blown away by just how savage and untamed this world really is. He lets out a deep, satisfied sigh and drinks in that fresh air like it's exactly what he needed. They finally reach the river, and Mesa carefully picks her way across the rocks like she's defusing a bomb with every step. Jink calls for lunch, but Loki shoots back, "I haven't hooked a single fish yet." He leans back and lets the calm, beautiful scenery wash over him. Finally, a real break from the chaos. But Mesa drops the truth. Her mom packed that lunch, and Pada even offers to share his own catch. Jink can't resist poking Loki about how badly he flopped at fishing. Mesa beams and reveals her mother even stuffed a magic tool in her bag, made to spark a fire the moment she needed it. The moment Loki hears there's a magic tool, his eyes light up, and he practically begs Jink to show him exactly how it works. Jink breaks down how the device works, then reveals the secret fuel, one magic stone. With one quick twist, a tiny flame snaps to life, leaving Loki and Pada staring in shock. Loki grips the fire starter, staring at this wild tool like, wait, it makes fire without a shred of magic. He practically claws out the campfire and lights it up, starving for a meal, while Jink just stares, baffled at how clueless Loki can get. Their little campfire crackles, and the smoke curls up into the afternoon sky like it owns the air. And before they even catch their breath, their freshly caught fish starts sizzling over the open flames. The four of them tuck in together and savor that simple meal, just pure, no strings joy in the middle of it all. But Loki decides to throw another dish onto their feast. He proudly dumps a mountain of cooked bugs in front of Jinx, and it visibly horrifies her. Loki swears it's delicious with just a pinch of salt, pushing his skeptical friends to believe him. Mesa takes a bite, and the moment the taste hits, her face lights up, like that surprise flavor instantly captures her heart. With their bellies finally full, Jinx grins and pitches a team showdown to burn off all that extra energy. Everyone else jumps in right away, already buzzing with one big question: how are they gonna split the teams? Loki drops a simple fix, his convenient little game, the Janken. The kids are totally stumped because they've never heard of anything like it before. And just like that, they gear up for their very first round of rock, paper, scissors. Jink and Mesa are buzzing with adrenaline for the competition, swearing they're not going to hold back. Loki leans in and fires up a hesitant-looking Pada with a bold word of encouragement. But Pada still looks totally lost, with no clue what he's meant to do next. So Loki resorts to wild hand gestures, pantomiming the game's rules like he's summoning the odds. Wajapada langsung bersinar dengan senyum lebar akhirnya daya paham rencana itu. The moment the game starts, Loki barks out orders, driving the whole team to work together in the river. He hovers above Pada, barking commands and timing every move so they can snag their prize. But he suddenly realizes he's been pushing that boy a little too hard. He tosses out a quick apology and begs them to slow it down and take things at a calmer pace. He flashes a soft smile and tells Pada not to push himself too hard. Meanwhile, Jink and Mesa are laughing as they blast each other with water in the river. But Pada freezes dead still and it hits him. An instant realization slams into his mind. For the first time, it finally clicks. He can understand exactly what Loki's saying. Loki's voice snaps through the air, blasting a shout that drags the others in. But his panic gets slammed to a stop when he finally realizes it. He did it to himself. Pada clamps him in a tight hug, practically glowing with joy. She's finally got a new friend she can talk to. Everyone else can only stare in shock, trying to figure out if he's actually telling the truth. Loki's eyes snap wide with pure jaw-dropping disbelief. He finally clicks every time Pada talks to him. He's basically been his teacher, handing out experience and even boosting his language comprehension. But he snaps back fast, because now is not the moment to dissect game mechanics. Mesa throws a loud congratulations at Pada, declaring his new skill a reward he's absolutely earned. With celebration on the line, Loki steps up and offers to whisk the whole crew to a secret restaurant only he knows. He strides back to the curry shop, and the others trail behind him, buzzing with excitement and tangled up in pure confusion. But that blazing spice hits Pada and Mesa like a truck, while Loki just smirks and flashes a satisfied thumbs up. A few days later, the town of Bazet wakes up to a quiet morning, like the calm before everything explodes. Loki stretches awake and realizes his whole body feels way lighter than it did before. He stares at the medicine they handed him and instantly realizes it's ridiculously valuable. Then he braces himself to ask, how much is this? He barrels into the guild with a brand new mission in his sights, rake in a jaw-dropping one, 5 million beaking. While he scarfed down a quick bite, he couldn't help checking his status to see if anything new had popped up. A confident grin spreads across his face, and he's already ready to smash through whatever the day throws at him. His lunge and presence detection skills have both finally hit a solid level 3. He stands in the guild hall, staring up at the second floor like he's just spotted a ghost from his past. It's Amanda, pure fury, as she demands to know why he hasn't shown up in days. Loki mutters under his breath, basically admitting that it's way easier for him to dump his earnings before she starts with the lectures. Her rage snaps off in a blink, and loneliness creeps in as she scrambles to explain why she's like this. But she snaps to a brighter topic and beams, announcing that his promotion to F rank has officially been approved. She even points out that just 6 days ago, another hunter was throwing caution to the wind, so Loki's progress feels even more unbelievable. Since the timing couldn't be more perfect, she swoops in and offers to pull part of his earnings out for him. Now that Loki's new rank is locked in, he snaps into action, gearing up and setting his sights on the rocker planes next. Amanda hands him his brand new F-rank guild card, sealing his promotion like it's the start of something huge. Amanda claps her hands together and tells him with pure excitement how perfectly the new rank fits him. But Loki suddenly realizes the card's material has changed, and he's not ready for it at all. Amanda casually drops that if he wants it, she'll have it changed for him. She says every rank is tied to a specific material, starting with plain iron and climbing all the way to legendary adamantite. Loki leans in and asks, "So does that mean I can upgrade the material anytime I feel like it?" She smirks and tells him he can get it if he pays an extra processing fee. It slams into him like a freight train. This whole world runs on microtransactions. She tells him the guild can't just hand over rare materials, but he's already clocked it. This is just another scam to bleed him for every last coin. He pauses just long enough to process this fresh wave of system-level frustration. He then quizzed her, demanding she confirm whether SRANK is truly forged from adamantite, and she teases him back with a playful reply. Loki pushes the conversation again, leaning in to demand if S-rank is really the absolute top tier. Amanda's eyes light up as she digs into his questions. He admits that as the ultimate rank, adamantite just feel way too underwhelming. She exhales a weary sigh, eyes narrowing as she can't figure out why he's clinging to that weird detail like it's the only thing that matters. But then she drops a jaw-gripping truth. There were once even higher ranks, guarded by legendary figures, and every single one of them has vanished long ago. She tells you that the vanishing of those ranks is the talk of the town, so of course she brought it up. Loki realizes this is a sign there are others out there who were built for this life, way more than he ever was. The moment it hit him, his mind snapped to Takuya, the legendary hero rumored to wield cheat powers beyond belief. He pictures the hero standing amid a cheering crowd, then it clicks, because a prince like that wouldn't have any reason to stay a lowly hunter. The cold, brutal unfairness of it all shatters his hope and drags him into a spiral of pure despair. He can't stop wondering if that legendary hero is still alive somewhere, and if a part of him isn't already desperate to meet him. Then a shadowy figure slips in behind him and leans close, promising to spill everything he's dying to know. Loki's face lights up instantly as he blurts out, "Wait, are you really gonna explain the mystery of the lost ranks?" But her offer was nothing but cruelty in disguise, and she relentlessly hunts him through the guild, snarling that he needs to drop those big, lofty dreams. He breaks free from her rage, utterly wiped out by the crushing force of her presence. But he shrugs it off in a heartbeat and locks in on getting the rocker planes ready. He's in full sprint mode, scrambling for intel, snapping up antidotes, and piling on potions like he expects trouble any second. All that's left is grabbing fresh weapons and armor, because by morning he swears he'll be fully ready. But the blacksmith hits him with the truth. Those custom gears won't be ready for at least 5 long days. He dangles a slightly faster leather armor option, but the weight drags on so hard that Loki's left totally, jaw-dropping stunned. Loki crumples into a puddle of despair, staring into the void like, did he finally snap for real? He tells everyone he has to be ready today, but the blacksmith only hands him some off-the-shelf armor like that'll cut it. The man snaps back and tells him straight up, the right armor means survival or death, and it has to be fitted perfectly. He slams his hand down and insists that any gear small enough for a child is always custom-made. With everything finally sorted, he orders Loki to go hunt through the weapons, while he steps in to get measured. Loki decides that even without his armor, he can still sneak a peek at what's out there. He yells at the blacksmith, demanding to inspect the one exact sword sitting in the display case. The blacksmith hesitates, and a sharp flicker of surprise flashes across his eyes. After a beat, he grudgingly caves and finally lets him take a look. Loki's grin ignites with pure joy as he spots the perfect-sized blade, and it's right in his budget. But the second he realizes the sword's got a max mana boost enchantment, he freezes, then snaps out loud that an ability this useless won't sell a single thing. The blacksmith shrugs and says, a mana boost on a mage's staff is standard fare, but slam it onto a warrior's weapon and it's basically useless unless you're a high-level dual wielder. Loki's totally stunned, he can't wrap his head around it like, why forge a sword you know you'll never be able to sell? The blacksmith fires the question right back at him, and Loki can only admit the truth. He'd heard the man's magical skills from the jewelry shop owner. That little memory of the shop owner's teasing just seals it, proving the blacksmith's tale is the real deal. Loki grips the blade tight, still desperately trying to crack the mind-bending reason it was forged. He blurts out whether it's just a prototype, or maybe a secret gift meant for someone special. The blacksmith's stern face cracks open, his tough stare melting into quiet, heavy sorrow. He finally spills the truth. He forged that sword with his own hands for his son. Loki's eyes flare with an awkward jolt as it hits him. He blurts out that the blacksmith has a son. Loki snaps his hand over his mouth on the spot, instantly realizing he just made a catastrophic blunder. The blacksmith snaps at himself, furious that he even dared to bring the whole topic up in the first place. He rushes in to apologize for his outburst, spilling that he's not really angry, he's just terrified for his son, an adventurer around Loki's age. Loki leans in and asks, should I really grab the sword? Like he's wrestling over whether he's stealing a precious keepsake. But the blacksmith refuses to back down. He swears his son would smile, knowing his blade is finally being put to real work. With a determined grin, Loki shoots a grateful look and gladly takes the offer. He clamps his hands around the hilt of his brand new weapon, but the blacksmith hasn't finished forging it yet. His voice goes ice cold, shutting Loki down cold. No heading to the rocker planes without the right gear. That sudden order hits Loki like lightning and leaves him utterly stunned. He knows trying to lie his way out won't work, because the blacksmith's warning lands exactly where it needs to. But Loki refuses to back down. His decision is already locked in and he's going no matter what. He tells them Palmyra Forest isn't a threat anymore, because the rewards are so pitiful he can't justify moving forward. He's already hit level 8, every kill pumping his stats higher, and now he's itching to take the next step. If those rocker plane monsters are stuck at F rank, then he's got zero doubts, he'll deal with them. The blacksmith snarls that he'll yank the sword back, then slams the rules down. He won't let him leave until his armor is finally ready. Loki knows regular people would actually listen. Too bad he's not built for normal, not even close. His mind rockets back to his gaming days, those endless grinds, that relentless chase to become stronger than anyone else. With wild eyes blazing, he practically roars that he can't wait 4 days, then storms off ready to take on anything with nothing but a knife if it comes to it. The blacksmith's eyes turn ice cold, and you can tell his patience is snapping fast. And that look hits with pure intensity. Loki freezes instantly, like his feet just died. The blacksmith clenches his jaw, and his frustration finally snaps like a breaking forge. He lets out a heavy sigh, stuck on one terrifying thought. Why does Loki sound exactly like his son? He tells you how he poured his whole soul into forging a weapon for his son, and still, the kid died anyway. With a trembling voice, the blacksmith tells Loki to stay right there, right where he stands. He strides back in wearing brand new armor, grinning like he owns the place, and announces with total confidence that it fits him perfectly. Loki can only freeze in horror, realizing this had to be the blacksmith's sons. There's no other explanation. He tells them it's forged from a special material, so strong it can even shut down wind magic. Then he calls it a gift meant to keep him safe. But his voice drops into something lethal. He warns Loki that if he even dies, he'll track him down himself and make sure the job is finished. Loki only manages a shaky grin, and even as he admits it, you can tell the threat is exactly what's lighting a fire under him. Once the gear was finally locked in place, the blacksmith grabbed him and led him straight out back to the shop's training grounds. The blacksmith grabs his wrist and orders him to swing the new blade the right way. Loki clenches the hilt tight, and the crushing memory of that man's son gnaws at his thoughts. Then it hits him, the blacksmith hasn't been waiting for just anybody. He's been waiting for someone who'd truly value that weapon. He darts in, swings the blade once and checks, balance, weight, everything right on the spot. He feels the blade in his bones, like it's bonded to his hand through someone else's memories. The blacksmith grills him for his opinion and Loki grins, perfect. It's light, smooth, and a joy to swing. He spins around with a cocky grin and swears to the man, no matter what, he's not dying. A cold system-style ping hits. He's got the sword and armor now, and the memories come flooding back. Loki finally exhales in relief, like he's just blown through the tutorial phase of this world and made it to the real fight. Before he leaves, he yanks out the medicine vials and fires off a question, how much do they cost? But the blacksmith slams his refusal down. He won't take a single coin, because that medicine isn't something you can buy. The moment the two lock eyes, a full-on shouting war erupts, Loki barking that he'll pay, while the blacksmith refuses to take a single coin. Their argument rips through the street, a no-holds-barred clash of stubborn wills. Loki stomps off, grumbling about the old man like crazy, because all he paid was for the sword. He can't shake the feeling that he just cleared some hidden side quest, saving a chunk of money, but walking away with an awkward little grin. With his gear finally locked in place, he storms toward his next destination. He stands before the town church, gripping his resolve as he makes the last preparations before everything changes. The nun points it out. Yeah, they've chatted before, but this is the first time he's ever actually stepped inside. In the sacred hush of the halls, one lone figure drops to their knees and prays like their life depends on it. Loki cranes his neck at the goddess statues as the nun swings in, welcomes him, and praises his brand new look. He leans in and fires a question at the nun. So this is how you pray to the goddess. The man demands a status appraisal, and Loki steps right in beside him. practically buzzing with excitement to watch the whole process unfold. He's stunned to realize the whole ritual is being carried out right in the open, in full view. Loki couldn't stop himself from feeling ridiculously grateful for that perfectly convenient private status screen just sitting there for him. Then he leans in and quizzes the nun. Does the size of your donation decide just how detailed the appraisal gets? The nun goes off like a bomb, rage roaring as she slams down. No, you can't buy the goddess blessing. Loki just lowers his gaze and plays dumb, like he didn't totally light the fuse and push her buttons. She straight up tells everyone that big donations don't just pay bills. They buy you an invite to the fan-mouth theocracy. But she shoots the idea down on the spot, saying it's worlds away from their simple lives. Loki can only smirk, because he instantly clocks that familiar scent of cold cash and real power. He daydreams about the mighty fan mail theocracy, then realizes the donations are really just a slick cover to bankroll a wealthy nation. He drops a coin into the box, showing up at the church for one razor-sharp reason. The real reason he's here hits him like a truck. He just found out the truth about job selection. He never saw his job turning into a prayer, but if there's even a sliver of advantage on the table, he's grabbing it. The nun tells him this job is a gift straight from the goddess, so pray hard for the one you want. Loki keeps repeating blessing, and for a split second, confusion flashes hard in his eyes. She tells him that once you've got a job, leveling up related skills gets way easier, and sometimes it even hands you brand new, unique powers. He shuts his eyes tight, and the moment hits. This is just another RPG mechanic shoved into the life he was promised was real. He instantly grabs it and ties it to class-specific growth bonuses, the kind of classic RPG mechanic that makes you feel unstoppable. He even starts dreaming that getting a promotion could unlock an even stronger version of himself. The nun leans in and admits she's only ever witnessed beginner and intermediate jobs, nothing past that. But she drops a bombshell. There's a revelation class, a special role the town's priest holds. She breaks into a laugh and says, in a little town like this, you only ever run into the same old common crowd. Then she bolts off to track down the priest and get him called. Loki's stunned. He shoots her a warning look, telling her not to toss around a term like that so casually when it could change everything. The nun corners the priest and demands to know if he's still free for the job selection. A man's grin spreads across his face as he confirms he's still got it, still able to pull off the divine ritual. Trial introduces himself as the town's priest, while Loki smirks and drops his own name. Loki swallows hard as the man's title finally lands, crushing his nerves. This is Trial, the guy who wields the legendary special ability class job. Loki admits he feels zero special aura radiating off the man. He pushes for the ritual to start, buzzing with anticipation, because he's dying to find out what kind of insane abilities he's about to unlock. He shoots a question like, can someone as clueless as me even receive a blessing like this? The priest leans in and tells him everyone's road is different, that it's totally okay to figure it out step by step. He explains that every person gets steered by one of the 6 goddesses, like Farron, the goddess of harvest, or Regal, the stern goddess of war loomed like a living storm. And then there's Elisha, goddess of love, ready to turn hearts upside down. And Rhea, the somber goddess of sin loomed like a curse. Summon, the gentle goddess of life. And then Rist, the razor-sharp goddess of commerce, steps into the spotlight. The priest leans in and tells them the 6 goddesses love every single soul in humanity. No favorites, not a single one left out. But then Loki clocks it, the acorn-headed god who called him in isn't one of them. He fires a question, do you people of Bezet worship all 6? And the priest nods, confirming it's the full set. Loki simply can't wrap his head around it. There's no way it's really that easy. He asks, so I'm only supposed to pick one of you to pray to. The priest grins and says he can pray to every single one, but he warns that some people end up getting way crazier results than they bargained for. He orders Loki to drop to his knees and pray with every ounce of his soul for the job he's chasing. Loki locks eyes on the statues, realizing this is his one shot to finally lean on a real god. He clenches his hands together and blurts out desperate prayers for the exact job he's been craving. Eyes shut tight, he pours every ounce of his will into one raw, heartfelt plea. He begs for a close-quarters fighting gig, one that'll crank up his power and harden his defenses. Then out of nowhere, a strange voice crashes through his mind and it knocks him totally off guard. He hears a woman's voice snap through the air, telling him to get ready for what's coming. The voice softens, telling him, you're safe now, open your eyes. He tilts his head upward, and the voice that hits him is far too young, not the priest at all. A blinding light erupts in his vision the second he lifts his eyes from his prayer. And right in front of him, 3 ethereal women loomed, so overwhelming they practically crushed the air. When did a warrior's unwavering, unbreakable stare ever look away? Another watches with a soft, bittersweet look, like sadness is quietly breaking through. Then the third one smirks, cold, calm, and fully in control, her eyes glittering with dark amusement. The gentle-looking goddess leans in and demands he state who he is. Loki stammers, realizing he's standing face-to-face with real goddesses. But the warrior goddess slams him to silence, ordering him to answer only her questions. Out of nowhere, an earth-shaking pressure rams him face-first into the ground. The third goddess shuts him down completely, brushing his concerns off like this whole mess has nothing to do with her. She shoots her hand toward him and calls him an anomaly, something that has no right to exist in this world. With terror blazing in her eyes, she snaps that she'll personally erase him. Loki can only freeze in absolute terror, completely pinned down by her crushing presence. He tears into Rhea, begging her to hear him, trying to plead with the goddess of sin before it's too late. But the goddess of love swoops in and makes them stop, demanding they listen to his side before they dare judge him. Loki rips out a scream of pure terror, trapped and pinned by something nobody can see. He gasps for breath, convinced they're about to line him up and execute him. No warning, no mercy. The goddess of love steps in and demands he tell her exactly who he is, and why he's come to their world. Loki realizes one slip of the tongue could spell his doom, and he knows this interrogation is already zeroing in on him. He steels himself and finally blurts the truth. Back then, he was Manga Yudo, until the day they snatched him away. The goddess of war theorizes that he got snatched by a dimensional rift, and that's why he suddenly showed up out of nowhere. But the second he tries to bring up the acorn-headed god, his voice just cuts out. The other two goddesses snap to it, something's off, like his thoughts just got slammed shut without warning. Loki's breath catches as he realizes they can read his mind, and any lie he tries to spin will get ripped apart in seconds. But the goddess of love believes him, straight up, confirming he was dragged here against his will. Loki panics on the spot, convinced they're calling him out for having amnesia. But the goddess of war clocks one thing sure: they can read his thoughts, but they can't see a single one of his skills. The goddess of love can't stop wondering, what if he's hiding something right in front of them just out of sight? The goddess of sin locks eyes with him and declares, "This kid is way more dangerous than you think." They argue about what to do next, and it hits them. His true identity is a total mystery, and that alone could wreck their entire world. Loki throws himself into their faces, begging them to listen, swearing with everything he's got that he truly knows nothing about what's happening to him. Then a brand new, thunderous voice slams in and orders the foreign object to shut up, cutting him off mid-sentence. It snaps the rules in his face, and the pressure crashes down until he can't take another breath. The three goddesses can only stand there, jaws dropped, staring in stunned silence. And Loki finally snaps, blasting into a furious scream, claiming every god is nothing but selfish, incompetent fools. The war goddess erupts in pure rage, declaring his insolence a death sentence. But Loki just bursts into laughter in her face, mocking them for acting tough, when they were moments away from killing him anyway. The goddess of sin nods in agreement, and she's ready to smash him down, even if it means torching the whole town along the way. Loki explodes with rage, shouting that they're just like criminals, ready to throw innocent lives away for their own comfort. The goddess of love can only stare back, utterly wrecked by the audacity of his accusation. He spills everything, how they ripped him out of his world and dumped him in this forest with zero say in the matter. He tells the story of his desperate fight to survive, blind to what to do, with zero food and not a drop of water in sight. He got shoved into monster fights and forced to choke down raw fish just to stay alive. He still remembers that wave of pure relief crashing over him the second he finally found other people and made it to the town of Bizet. He'd finally started to enjoy this world, fully ready to squeeze every last drop out of life. Tears poured down his face as he begged them please tell him what he did wrong. Then he pleaded, "Is it a crime to fight just to survive?" He still remembers the faces of the people who took him in, the first time he'd ever felt real happiness. But now, standing in front of these goddesses, it hits him. This is the end, and he's convinced he's about to die just like he always feared. He can't stop wondering if reincarnation is real. Will he finally get a second shot at life? And if he pulls it off, he's praying it all lands him in a world like this, where his hard work finally pays off. A soft voice slices right through his racing thoughts, demanding to know, "So who are you?" The goddess of love leans down to stare him in the eyes, demanding to know his true identity. He keeps insisting, "I'm no god, I'm just a man who's finally starting to enjoy this world." She weighs his words for a split second, then hits him with a firm, "I just need to confirm one last thing." She spins around and demands to know, did anyone hand him skills before he ever showed up? She tells you how they can yank souls out of other worlds, and when those souls land, boom, they get special skills right on arrival. Loki balls his fist tight, and the word skills slams into him like a sudden, electrifying revelation. He finally gets what a real isekai transfer is supposed to feel like. With a heavy heart weighing him down, he raises two fingers and admits, "Yeah, I got two gifts. First, they rewound him from his 32-year-old body to his younger self. Then they gave him one wild power. He could see his own status screen. He admits he can't verify the de-aging, but he's sure the screen's legit, because two secret items are locked behind him that he can't even access. The goddess of war leans in, accusing him of lying, then demands to know how on earth he can even see asterisk a status screen. Loki laughs and tells him it's basically a game screen, displaying his levels, his stats, and even a full skill tree packed with everything he can learn. The goddesses freeze in shock, staring at the skilled tree like it's a curse, because their divine sight still can't make sense of it. Loki's totally baffled. He's begging them to explain it again, but this time in simple words because he has no idea who this Felza even is. He tells you his power isn't random like everyone else's. It's chopped into numerical points he can freely dump wherever he wants. The goddess of love freezes in shock, because this proves he's tied to a higher-ranked god. Loki can't stop wondering, maybe this Felsa is some kind of superior being, and the acorn-headed god has no clue what he's up against. And then it hits him, everything finally clicks. He realizes why his status screen never gives him that cheat power he'd been dreaming about. He admits the kind of world-shaking power he can't even understand, and right then the goddess realizes she can read his thoughts. The goddess of love finally snaps, admitting she was dead wrong for doubting them and acting on pure impulse. Then Loki goes nuclear, blasting the moment into the air like, "You were ready to kill me without even hearing my side." In a jaw-dropping twist, the three goddesses crash to the ground in front of him and beg for his forgiveness with a real, heartfelt apology. Loki is totally rattled, and he blurts out that he went too far with those brutal words himself. He squirms to dodge the conversation, blurting out that he's only here for the same reason he came to this church in the first place. He asks, voice cracking, if this means all that effort still won't get him even a job. He can't help thinking maybe he's just not cut out to be a hunter, but the goddess of war shuts that down instantly. She breaks it down. The six of them run this world, but a weaker god babysits the other side, only blessing the non-humans. Loki pleads, "Can you just send me home?" But she shuts him down fast. She admits they don't have that power. He stands alone before the three divine beings, trapped in the exact fate they decide. But the goddess of love strides forward and declares it's their sacred duty to lead him. Loki finally clocks it. She's the only one who really heard his story from the very beginning. When he finally sees her the right way for the first time, he can't stop thinking she's stunning. That random compliment basically fries her divine brain into total, helpless silence. She blurts in a panic that because he's clueless, they're going to step in themselves and hand him the guidance. A brand new skill flashes on his screen oracle, the goddess's one-way message that only goes from her to him. Loki shoots the question, "So this means I'm stuck under constant surveillance from now on." The goddess of love tells him they can't keep eyes on him that tightly, but Loki's already figured out he won't have to go back very often. She snaps to it, one-way skills are useless, until the goddess of war steps in and spells it out. That power is something only a divine child can learn. With eyes blazing and a wild grin, she announces that this isn't just an apology, it's a special gift too. The goddess of war leans in and warns, "Give them this power and it'll drain me," but she's already locked in her decision. Loki can only stand there and stare, watching these divine beings refuse to bend at all. He jolts awake in his room, heart racing, and realizes it wasn't a dream. Two brand new skills pop up on his screen like a punch to the gut. But when he double-checked his stats, he found 0 job bonuses waiting for him, none. Still, he forces a grin and says, "All right, look at the bright side." Now he can finally reach the goddesses, and that means his real Isekai Nightmare to Adventure life is officially starting. He figures, let's see what this new divine communication power can do, and decides this won't be complicated at all, just a quick, simple Q&A. But the moment it hits, his head gets swamped by the chaos, 3 goddesses yelling over each other like a storm of voices. He figures out this crazy skill only fires once a day, an exclusive divine gift meant for a divine child. But right when he tries to use the slate, it explodes into shards, and he goes berserk, yelling that the skill is totally useless. He clenches his teeth, raging as he curses the incompetent goddesses for handing him a power so worthless it's basically useless. He grits his teeth and forces a smile, but all he manages to learn is nothing, 0, useless and still. His mind races up the ladder of this world, those managing goddess at the top and the higher gods stacked above them. He digs in and vows to live for himself, right as he starts to wonder if the acorn-headed god is pulling strings behind the scenes. The name Felza, that higher god, keeps slamming around inside his head, and he still has 0 clue what kind of power this being even holds. He clings to that desperate plea to the goddesses, feeling every shred of a man's raw panic, because at the end of it all, he was just trying to survive. He can't stop replaying it. How in the world did he end up with a rare power that lets him talk straight to the goddesses? But all he got was this brutal one-sided lecture, like someone squeezed 2 minutes of pure hell into his skull. Back in town, he snatches a quick bite and tells the vendor he's finally on his way to the rocker plains. The man points out how worn out he looks, but Loki shrugs it off like it's nothing. He slaps on a smile, digs in his heels, and barrels through, determined to get back to the grind. But deep down, rage is boiling, because every precious second he thought he'd get was stolen by these non-stop delays. He keeps replaying that botched job interview, the donation they bullied out of him, and the priest's kindness, which somehow only makes it all hurt more. He mumbles through clenched teeth that the goddesses have been nothing but a disaster for him. But as he strides through town, one fresh idea hits him like a sudden wall. He freezes right on the spot. His gaze snaps onto a massive merchant wagon as workers shove crates into place for its journey. He drinks in the sights of the town, and the second he finishes, his focus snaps straight to his next destination. Loki's jaw drops. Turns out the North Gate is way busier than he ever imagined. And then the South Gate explodes with life, finally handing him the real fantasy world experience he's been dying to get. He spots a crew of hunters up ahead, like a real adventuring party waiting to clash with fate. A brilliant idea hits him like lightning. He'll tail them and score a free escort straight to the rocker plains. He finally reaches his destination, and boom, a massive open field unfurls in every direction, stretching so far you can't even see the end. With the open ground laid bare, monsters show up fast, but he can't stop fearing other hunters will swoop in and steal the kills he fought for. He doubles down on going solo, fully convinced that's the only move that'll pump his gains the most. Crouched in the tall grass, he tightens his gear, heart pounding, because hunting is the only option left. With a gritty grin and his brand new sword gripped tight, he snaps, "All right, time to get to work." His first opponent is a hulking praying mantis, and he's already gearing up to find out if it can actually stand up to him. But the creature vanishes straight into the tall grass, already setting a deadly ambush. Loki snaps at his natural camouflage, realizing he can't hunt it down using sight alone. But then in a flash, a brand new plan snaps into his mind. He snaps on his presence detection skill and locks onto the monster's exact location in an instant. The mantis is way faster than he thought, and with one crushing strike, it slams him to the ground. Unfazed, Loki blasts forward and drops in with a lunge skill, so fast it feels like he's teleporting straight into range. A wild grin cracks across his face as he barrels in, hunting the kill. His next target is a poison mouse, and he's racing the clock because if it squeals for backup, he's done. But when the creature lunges at him, Loki freezes, because it's painfully, shockingly slow. He rips out a scream in pure panic, helpless as his own momentum won't let up. The creature's body explodes in a violent burst, spraying him with a strange, dripping substance everywhere. He smashes into the ground, and right as a notification blares, he realizes he just unlocked level 1 poison resistance. Right as he tries to catch his breath, the skill shoots straight up to level 2. He glares at his screen, completely baffled, because there's no way he should have leveled up that fast from just one encounter. Then it clicks, those poison mice aren't food by accident. They're a tasty treat for something far worse lurking nearby. Back at the guild, the cook stormed through the hall, and there, one of the poison sacks had been ripped open. Loki finally fesses up. His hand slipped on the first try, and his lack of experience robbed him of a perfect score. The cook frowns and snaps that the mice are crawling so slowly, then asks if this guy's actually thinking of hunting them out in the forest rule. Loki weighs it all in his mind, realizing he might have pushed Palmyra too far, and now he's itching for something bigger than ever. A jolt of realization slams into him. He's been reckless way past the breaking point. He knows one slip off the right path is basically a death sentence. He's watched player after player get wiped out, because they got cocky, charged straight into danger and paid for it. He tells the cook to forget about the rocker planes. He won't even think about them until his strength is fully proven. The cook leans in and warns him, those planes aren't normal at all, and one orc could blast him clear off his feet. But the man warns him, no matter how hard he tries to go it alone in Rolf, he'll barely pull in a thing. It all boils down to one brutal issue, how much weight he can carry before everything breaks. The richest treasure an orc has is its meat, but there's no way he's hauling that load back by himself. Loki nods and promises to think it through, swallowing the man's practical advice and taking it seriously. The cook just chuckles and tells him to grit his teeth through Amanda's lectures until he's finally ready for the next step. A receptionist shouts over to another hunter, his payments ready and waiting. Loki spots the crew from earlier, and teamwork still burning bright in his head. He tallies up his jaw-dropping earnings and decides they're more than enough to keep him living comfy for days. He clocks it right away. Around here, his paycheck is already way above what most people can even dream of. But the idea of forming a party still feels like a total waste, like you're throwing away experience and rewards for no reason. He'd first have to track down hunting grounds, then pay someone to haul his loot for him. The real problem, their goals would never click, because he's here hunting absolute strength, no compromises. But right as his thoughts start spiraling, Amanda yanks him up by the collar and cuts him off cold. She snaps, seething, asking when he started thinking about joining the party, while the other hunters just watch, amused. She leans in and reminds him, "Yeah, you're that hotshot rookie everyone's been buzzing about. People have their eyes on you." One hunter snaps a glance over his shoulder, and pure annoyance flashes across his face. 4 days later, Loki sits alone in the tall grass, picking apart every step of his progress like a killer detective. He finally clocked it. The loot you get from a monster isn't random, it's all tied to the skill level you swing with. As Palmyra's monsters crank up his lunge, the poison mice slide right in and level up his brand new resistance skill. So he pieces it together. If even the weakest monsters can hit level 1 skills, then that poison mouse has to be born with way tougher resistance than anyone expects. So yeah, if he wants the grind to go way smoother later, he's gotta hunt tougher monsters right now. But that non-stop scramble for fresh hunting grounds is grinding him down, day after day. And to make it worse, he's just uncovered a brutal truth. Some of these creatures are straight-up cannibals. So yeah, he can't afford to look away from that basket of materials for even a second. And with this 2-hour round trip to town every time, the constant stops to drop off his haul are starting to feel like pure torture. He screams with pure frustration, because he needs to hunt it all in one spot and finish fast. He just needs a high platform to stash his supplies, high enough that the monsters can't get to him. A shovel would be perfect, but then it hits him, he's got earth magic from the mole, and that's the real key. He shoots off a sarcastic shout, begging a mound of earth to magically pop up, totally convinced nothing's going to happen. But his jaw drops, dirt suddenly pops into existence right in front of his face. He fires off a quick glance at his status screen, and boom, his mana's been drained. Turns out that spell actually worked. He remembers the brutal trauma of trying to cast fire magic. Every single attempt detonated into failure. With a fire in his chest and a brand new goal, he takes a deep breath and tries the earth magic incantation one more time. Then bam, a second, even bigger mound rises up, and he's left absolutely speechless. A jolt of realization slams into him. Turns out magic doesn't come from some fancy chant or a flashy hand signal. He commits to the test, yells at the earth, and the ground shoots up into a towering mountain of rubble. But right away, he realizes it still isn't tall enough to stop those monsters from closing in. He flicks through his mana and wonders, can he actually mold his creation into a precise shape? His very first try at making stone pillars turned into a sloppy, broken disaster. Nothing but clumps and chaos. And the moment he tries to forge that giant pillar, the spell totally collapses, crashing his hopes. And now he's left staring at the ruins, wondering if his ambition was just too damn big. Then bam, a whole new theory snaps into place, and the mystery behind those incantations suddenly clicks in your head. He realizes he has to stitch together the exact keywords he's actually capable of using right now. With a confident shout, he orders a towering stone pillar to be summoned into existence. Then boom, a colossal wall of stone bursts up from the ground, shooting past the earth and towering over him in the blink of an eye. Loki clenches his fist and roars in victory, because with this power he can finally forge the perfect, razor-sharp hunting ground. He gapes at his basket full of materials, now panicking over how on earth he's supposed to get it down. But the results hit like a truck. His fixed-point hunting strategy is an absolute win. Even hauling that loot down will burn you out, but there's no denying how insanely efficient it is. He bursts into laughter, wishing he could yank his past self by the collar and tell him Magic's secret was hidden in his feet the whole time. But before he can enjoy his victory, a voice from behind yanks the spotlight away and demands, "What are you doing?" Loki jolts in shock, yanked out of the moment by a sudden interruption. A hunter slaps him with the title Lonely Rookie, the one everyone's been whispering about, then immediately wonders if that's the reason he's still flying solo. The man introduces himself as Adant, and basically offers Loki the honor of joining his party. But Loki just locks him with a flat, dead-eyed stare, like the offer's nothing, zero interest. His blunt refusal hits like a gut punch, and the other hunter is left totally speechless. Odin erupts in pure rage, absolutely stunned that she just slammed him down and turned him away. His party barges in, teasing Loki non-stop, calling him a cocky rookie who should just stop fighting and accept their kindness. They threaten to drag him to the guild, but Loki just strolls off like it's nothing, totally unbothered. Back at the guild, he fires off the whole story of what happened to Amanda. She leans in hard, eyes locked on Loki, clocking every ounce of his fighting power in real time. She snaps to it this isn't some mindless money hunt at all. He's racing the other groups, trying to beat every last party to the finish. Loki grins and you can practically feel the weight lift off his shoulders. She worried about him, and she doesn't even hesitate to say it out loud. He tells them straight up, he can't do much more than warn Aiden's party, but that's exactly what they need right now. He knows the guild expects hunters to sort out their own messes, and having a clingy rival breathing down his neck is pure non-stop trouble. Because this wasn't about winning or losing at all, making enemies with the locals could ruin his entire new life. After 4 brutal days of grinding, Loki finally hits level 9. He has to hit level 11 or higher just to dodge Aiden's party, so a run back to Palmyra is basically impossible. He believed Bezat was packed with good people, then somehow he'd already shoved himself into a whole mess. All he can do now is pray it doesn't get any messier from here. Then the very next day at the guild, he clocks a brand new emergency request blasted onto the board. His eyes flare the moment he spots the request for poison mice, and when he sees the reward S been jacked up, he practically can't contain his excitement. That notice slams a warning in your face. An outbreak of monsters might be coming because the mouse numbers keep climbing day after day. Then a terrifying thought slams into him: what if this nightmare is his fault? From a nearby doorway, Aden's party stared at him with full-blown suspicion. He finally clocks it. His own basket full of harvested stuff has been acting like a trap, dragging in more and more of them by the minute. The very next day, Aden's party hits the road and rides out of town, all fired up for the hunt. But Loki snaps to it fast. They're on his heels, clinging to his trail like it's the only lifeline in the world. He forces himself to tune them out, then locks his eyes on the hunt ahead. But one quick glance back proves it. There they are, still locked onto his every move. Odin's crew is already bickering, and you can see their whole plan cracking apart right in front of them. Loki only manages a weary sigh, because the non-stop harassment keeps grinding him down. His frustration finally erupts, and he snaps with an annoyed shout. He whips around and snarls, demanding to know just how long they're gonna keep chasing him. But Aden acts clueless, shrugging it off and swearing they're only heading to a fresh hunting ground. Loki calls their bluff and dares them: if they want to be efficient, they can go somewhere else. Aden let out a vicious sneer, snapping that Loki was trampling into their territory. Loki can't stop thinking, are they just messing with him, or are they hunting down his priceless materials? He finally caves, admits he gets it, and tells them to go on with their lives. He's out. But the confusion hits a wall. Then Loki snaps into motion and the air fills with shock as he starts casting his spell. In a blink, the basket rockets skyward, hoisted by a brand new stone pillar that just appeared out of nowhere. Loki realizes his earth magic has finally hit level 3, and if his theory's right, he's about to unlock even more keywords than he ever could before. He shouts for a massive, bottomless stone pillar to be forged, and the other hunters get launched into the air. Aden just blurts a scream of disbelief, raging, "What kind of monster are you?" But Loki just flashes a smug grin and says, "The real show is about to start." He realizes that if he slips in the word deep, he can drive that pillar down as far into the ground as he wants. Loki smirks, already picturing the crowd and vowing to knock their socks off. From now on, he declares he's going hunting, with style no less. With a cocky grin, he tells them to keep their eyes on him and watch how badly they're outmatched. His basket of materials is perched safely on top of that huge stone pillar, like it's perfectly placed for something big. Now he has to claw his way back to figuring out how to get it down. He stares ahead and maps his next move. Bam, a brand new plan starts spinning in his head. Hunched low to the ground, he tightens his resolve and readies himself to spring into the air. With a snap, he hurls up a 5-meter stone pillar straight under his feet and rides it like a makeshift elevator. He snatches the basket out of midair, his plan clicks into place flawlessly. The landing hits like pure terror, but he can't deny it. This experiment absolutely nailed it. He starts calculating the mana cost, and the reality hits. He's got to squeeze every ounce of energy just to keep going. A smug smile cracks across his face. Finally, he'll lock down his hunts in those rocker planes and put everything back on track. Sword held high, he roars that it's time to hunt even more. But when he finally stumbles back to the guild, pure exhaustion has him beat. Turns out he got way too carried away. The cook snaps at him to get out of the hall, swearing he'll come back and check on it as soon as he finishes up with the current customer. Loki drops yet another giant bag onto the pile, like he's stacking proof of how hard he's worked all day. Right away, the cook clocks that Loki is behind the whole emergency request. Loki panics and scrambles to deny it, swearing up and down he has nothing to do with the sudden surge of poison mice. But the cook just grins and admits, yeah, it isn't his fault, yet he's the spark that set everything in motion. Loki can do nothing but stare downward and get beaten, because he can't snap back against that man's brutal logic. The cook leans in, double-checks the treasure and goes, yeah, this haul is insane, every single bit is a rank quality. But Loki's already hungry for something bigger, like orcs, and it drives the cook absolutely nuts. The man points out flat out that dragging back a whole orc by himself is absolutely impossible. Loki just smirks like he's got it all under control, certain he'll figure out a way to handle it. Another hunter is totally stunned when he realizes Loki's insane. Stamina is fueled by sprinting those massive hauls back and forth. The cook finally shoves them out one by one, and without hesitation, he blames Loki for turning the whole guild into a total disaster. Storming off, Loki declares his next move. he'll commission a custom-made bag. But just as the thoughts start to swirl, a brand new voice cuts right through them. A smug hunter struts in, flashing an easy grin as he delivers a greeting that's casual and absolutely not welcome. Surrounded by his crew, the man stomps his foot and demands Loki cough up his earnings. Adence grabs him, screams at the top of her lungs to stop, and demands he report everything he did to Amanda. But she's already there, grilling them on whether it's true they tried to throw a party with Loki. Loki blurted, stammering hard, no, that's not what happened at all. He clings to the memory of them telling him to do his best, like they were trying to steal the credit for everything he did. Aiden's party fires back hard, insisting that since they're a team, the rewards should be split right down the middle. But the truth was way darker. Loki's terrifying power crushed all hope and left them shaking in fear. He clocks that he's got better things to do and decides they're just not worth a single second of his time. Odin steps right up in his face, demanding he tell him his rank and exactly how much he's earned. Amanda casually drops the bombshell. All three of them are F rank, and together they're only worth a measly 42,000. Odin snaps, demanding Loki get disqualified for blurting out at the wrong time. But Amanda stays cool and shoots a question. How is it them who said Loki was their party member? Adin can only stammer out a forced agreement because his own lie traps him. One of Loki's cronies slides him a measly pittance, sneering that a kid doesn't need anything more than that. But Loki swats his hand aside like it's nothing, no pause, no hesitation. He tells them, I'm pulling in 400,000 on my own, so why would I waste my time partying with nuisances? Adin's crew erupts in pure fury, and they refuse to hear a single word he's trying to say. Loki throws them one last warning, keep bugging him and he'll flip the switch, calling you his enemies. The other hunter just erupts in laughter, claiming that fighting an enemy is basically the same as stalking a monster. Sword in hand, Loki snaps that if they refuse to hear reason, he'll slice them down cold. No mercy at all. I just snapped my eyes back at them, frozen in pure disbelief, like my brain couldn't even keep up with the sudden threat. Amanda goes full panic mode, screaming for someone to grab the guild master, because if they don't, things are about to spiral out of control. Aiden's face contorts into a savage snarl as he roars at the cocky brat standing right in front of him. Then a stern voice slices through the chaos. Yargoth storms in and demands to know what's causing all that noise. Aden immediately spins around to plead his case, but Loki digs in and refuses to fold. The guildmaster snaps, follow me, and makes it clear this is exactly where you do not asterisk start trouble. A brand new chapter kicks off with one terrifying rule. The easiest way to break it is the one everyone forgets. It's meant to make the stubborn ones realize, if they won't listen, they'll be dumped with the monsters. A blast from his past hit him hard, back when he was the one stuck swallowing every round of abuse his superiors threw his way. Yargoth snaps that the guild won't step in when hunters clash, but if they keep stirring trouble, he'll slam the door and label them the villains. I could only scream in pure frustration, because I couldn't figure out why they were backing that cocky rookie. Yargoth snaps back, making it crystal clear he's not picking a side. He's already heard Loki's version of events. Loki finally lets out a wave of relief, because thank the stars, this guy is the one steering the ship. Aden insists the guild's true duty is to stop any situation that could get a hunter killed. A wild train of logic that slams Loki straight into total, jaw-dropping confusion. The guildmaster lays out the deadliest outcome. If they throw down, people will die, and the one getting wiped out will be Aiden's party. The hunter snorts at the thought, flat out refusing to accept that some kid could be a real threat. And Yargoth basically calls out their terrible risk management. Right on cue, that's why they're still trapped in F rank. He then lays it all out, the sheer mountain of materials Loki drags in, then leans in and dares the dent. Does he really know what or who he's poking at? The crushing weight of that truth slams Aden into total silence. Loki finally clocks it, guildmasters giving him real respect at last, even if it's wrapped up in some tricky, roundabout way. Loki keeps his cool and tells them, straight to their faces, that he never once meant to come after them. But Yargoth spills their whole plan, harass him, swipe his materials, and then slam in a fake report. He rips into them, calling their actions a disgrace, and then declares their hunter days are officially finished. The three of them are left frozen in terror, as he declares their permanent expulsion from the guild. Aden keeps pushing his case, but Loki knows the moment the guild's jurisdiction runs out, this turns into a straight-up legal battle. One of the hunters just collapses in total despair, staring at the truth like a punch. Now that everything's over, he has zero clue what he's even supposed to do with his life. Yargoth tosses them a tiny mercy, he'll get them other work, then demands they're grateful they weren't dragged off and sold into slavery. Amanda marvels at how smoothly everything got handled, then whips around and asks Loki if he's satisfied. With a chilling, unsettling grin, Loki snaps that this still isn't anywhere near enough. The instant his vibe flips, Eden goes completely pale with fear. The guildmaster's face snaps into a hard stare, and he fires off questions at Loki's sudden, out-of-nowhere demand. Loki calmly shrugs it off, saying this punishment is a separate matter. What he really wants is personal payback. Odin can barely get the words out, stammering like, "So you're saying I'm asking for more than just your expulsion?" Loki shuts them down cold, brushing off every plea like it's nothing. He doesn't care about their excuses or the dangers they completely ignored. He leans in and says, "I'm no hero. I was just trying to live my life until they stepped in and got in my way." Rage like ice flares in his eyes as he spits out the story of how they tried to use him, just like they used so many people from his past. He declares loud and clear that in this world, every single person answers for what they do. And since this isn't some game, he's going to make them regret every single choice for the rest of their lives. Yargov snaps at him to stop pressing their luck, but Loki only grins, like this chaos is exactly what he wanted. Then he leans in and asks if they're planning payback, smiling like it's music to his ears, so he can finally stop holding back and deal with them like the monsters they truly are. He finally snaps, pent-up rage exploding out as he screams that he's barely holding himself back from killing them right here on the spot. Adant and his goons can only shake in pure terror, absolutely shattered by the kid's terrifying threat. They drop to their knees right away, begging to be spared as they shove every coin and piece of gear into the hands of their enemies. And just like that, the three disgraced hunters get marched out of the guild for good. From his office window, Yargov leans in, eyes locked on the unfolding chaos, wearing a look of deep, thoughtful intensity. Loki strides up to the guildmaster, who looks like he's been waiting right on the edge of time for him. He thrusts the fresh bag of coins into the deal and calls it the payback for every last bit of trouble. Every last coin he ripped from the hunters gets shoveled straight into Yargov's hand. The guildmaster stares down at the boy, weighing whether this brutal common sense move is actually something he cooked up. But Loki just clenches his fist and snaps that he feels zero mercy for anyone who hurts others without even pausing to think. Yargov breaks into a small smile and admits it. Loki's recklessness is so wild that one life just won't cut it. Then he shoves the bag of extorted cash into Amanda's hands and orders her to keep it safe, just for now. But Loki turns to her and asks if she'll hand those potions from the disgraced hunters over to Jink and the rest instead. He grins and says it's the least I can do, because he owes them more than he can ever repay. Amanda nods and can't help but remark on it. Loki has changed so much since he first showed up. Later, Yargov grills Loki on his progress, then nods. Turns out Loki's caution isn't a weakness at all. It's the exact kind of sharp instinct a hunter needs. His face stays hard and locked in, like his whole focus is drilling straight toward the boy's future. He whips around to Loki and warns him. The nail that's sticking up is the one that always gets hammered flat. Loki just smirks and says he'll do his best to blend in, because there's no way he's letting anyone hammer him down. The guildmaster can only let out a soft, amused sigh at the boy's non-stop, unshakable confidence. Yargov whips around with a knowing grin and asks whether his pronunciation of that otherworldly language was spot on. Loki's jaw drops in total shock, because the guildmaster just quoted the one Japanese phrase he's used. His mind spirals because he realizes Yargov didn't just talk, he deliberately spoke his language to bait and test him. The guildmaster leans in and admits that ever since their very first encounter, his suspicions have been spiraling, and now he's 100% sure. He stares down at Loki and fires the one question that flips everything: are you from another world? Loki's heart drops to his stomach. His secret, kept under lock and key for so long, just got exposed. He panics and blurts out his side, swearing he never had a hostile bone in his body. But his thoughts snap straight to something darker. He can't stop wondering what the guildmaster is plotting to do with him. With that grin on his face, the man leans in and asks what a whopping 1 million beak reward would get him. Yargov just erupts in laughter, then tells the boy to treat it like a sweet threat because it'll get him to cooperate. Yargov leans in and demands to know, will Loki take his offer and team up? Loki shoots him a nervous grin and promises, yeah, I'll take tomorrow off. The guildmaster slams a command into him, come back tomorrow at noon, and swears it'll actually help. Loki can only crane his neck up at the guild, and the whole air crackles with raw anticipation. But as he storms off, he blurts out the truth. He's awful at handling people like Yargov. Right then, a shadowy voice suddenly rips through the air and shouts his name. He whips his head around, totally lost, when the voice declares herself, Regal, the goddess of war. She demands to know if he's been practicing the communication skill, then tells him to call the second he's ready to talk. But Loki just brushed her off, and her goddess voice faded into nothing. He clenches his teeth and snaps curses at the goddesses, roaring that their skill is totally useless. Since he's got a pile of unanswered questions, he figures, why not take the skill for another shot? He reminds himself to stay sharp, because he can't handle another interrogation like the one Yargov put him through. Back in his room, he hammers through the skill again, only to realize it's already climbed to level 2. A bright, cheerful voice suddenly blares his name and asks, right there and then, if he can hear her. She beams and tells him, I'm Farron, the goddess of harvest, practically vibrating with excitement because she's finally able to talk to him face to face. But Loki's grin instantly dies, and dread crashes over him like a storm. Another voice slices in and introduces herself as Riste, the goddess of commerce, then demands to know what he's really up to. She admits that even trying to read his thoughts is a brutal, near-impossible challenge for them. He lets out a huge sigh of relief, because for once at least one of them looks calm and fully in control. He pictures this cool, razor-smart goddess, and it feels like a breath of fresh air after all the chaos he's been getting hit with. But that chaotic roar of divine voices hits him like a hammer, and his head starts to pound. He tries to take control of the conversation, pushing forward like, I've got a super specific question, tell me. He tells the tale of how, back then, he already met the rules to use magic, but no spell would ever leave his hands until the day he met them. He makes it crystal clear. His magic didn't kick in until the very next day after he visited that church and met them. One of the goddesses lights up and blurts that their get-together must have been the spark that set everything off. She tells you how in this world spirits act like the ultimate magic middlemen, drinking a user's mana to power everything. But because the spirits couldn't sense Loki at all, they ignored every spell he tried to throw at them. Loki snaps to the truth. If those spirits are God's dependents, then his run-in with them likely flagged him in the system. He finally realizes that if he'd never crossed paths with them, he'd be stuck powerless forever, thanks to that acorn-headed god. But just as he thinks he's getting somewhere, the goddess's non-stop chatter hijacks his mind and wrecks every thought. He tries to spill his frustration, but that non-stop divine chatter just overwhelms him. With every question finally answered, he blurts out a real thank you, like a huge weight just got ripped off his shoulders. That chef's words keep hammering in his head. No matter how much tougher monsters he hunts, some limit still clamps down on him. He finally figures out the brutal truth slowing him down. The raw weight of every material he hauls in is crushing him. So he decides to march up and ask the goddesses, is there a special skill that can fix this? He pictures a classic RPG inventory slot, a separate pocket of space where all his loot gets stashed and saved. But then the goddess drops the truth. Space magic isn't something you stumble into, it's a power she hands to the summoned heroes, specifically so they can pull this off. Right as the bombshell hits, the divine message cuts out mid-word, and he erupts in furious screams. He knows those skill points are gold, but a brand new path just flared open in front of him. The goddesses just dropped a game-changing truth, and he knew his next move had to be heading straight for the guild. A burst of adrenaline hits him because it finally clicks. The real story is about to kick into gear. The moment the thought hits, his vision blurs, and his consciousness starts slipping away. Then, just like that, everything goes dark and he fully blacks out. He jolts awake, heart racing, stunned that the sun's already up and it's morning. He tries to piece together last night, replaying that divine message in his head, right before his mind snaps and he drops into unconsciousness. He can't stop worrying he got poisoned on the plains, because his mana still hasn't bounced back fully. A sudden realization hits him like a lightning bolt. His gaze snaps to the sword lying at the foot of his bed. He stares for a beat and then boom, it all snaps into place. He remembers his new routine. Every single night he bleeds mana to grind his magic skills. And after his chat with the goddesses, he knows he still needs 60 points to make it count. He checks his stats and realizes the sword's mana boost barely scratches the surface of what he needs for his training. He kept driving his power with that blade, and the thought burned in his mind. What would have happened if he'd just let go? And just like that, he collapsed, mana drained to zero, consciousness gone. In any other fantasy world, collapsing in the wild like that would have sealed his fate for good. A chilling thought crashes over him. Those reckless grindings could have actually killed him. But he snaps out of that fear fast and vows to seize this fresh day like it's his last chance. First, he heads straight for the guild, ready to grab his earnings before he meets up with Yargoth. But a voice he recognizes from the table next to his snaps his attention instantly. He catches other hunters trading whispers about how he shoved Aiden's crew out of the guild. Loki just lets out a sigh like he knew from the start, because of course he's already the talk of the town. He's right back in his old gaming days. Anyone who popped off would get hunted instantly by jealous players. The air turned so toxic that even the other players snapped and rage quit. Nobody could take that pressure anymore. But he won't let anyone else's malice steer his choices after pouring in all that time and effort. He remembers that as long as the guild system was running, he didn't care a single bit what anyone else thought, or what they tried. He's always been convinced that wasting his time on random, anonymous strangers is about as pointless as it gets. That's why he tackles everything solo, until a brutal spike of pain in his head yanks him back to the present. He snaps his gaze upward and spots Jink and Mesa sprinting at him, yelling his name like they're out of time. Loki can only freeze and stare, utterly blindsided by their sudden arrival. Last night, Mace's mom apparently bumped into Amanda, and Amanda flat out told her exactly where to find him. Jink lifts the potions Loki handed them, grinning wide as they thank him for the gift. Jink tells them he's relieved he snagged Loki before the day even started. The other two lean in and ask, "Can you help us with the delivery, since he's already going the same way?" Loki nods instantly, like there's no doubt at all, his mind already racing to the meeting waiting just ahead. But first he heads straight to the church, because the goddesses still have unfinished business waiting on him. He strides up to the familiar nun and greets her with such devout respect that her whole face lights up. He hands over a small gift to make up for the trouble he caused on his last visit. Once the pleasantries are done, he drops to his knees and prays hard, desperate to finally get the answers he's been waiting for. A familiar voice crashes through his thoughts and the words tell him, yeah, they heard his call. He listens with bated breath, bracing for the divine chaos he's seen coming a mile away. And just like you'd bet, the goddesses are already waiting. One snaps at the other to calm down. A new voice kicks in, and they confirm this is the very first time they've met face to face. Then boom, 3 more goddesses close in around him, and they introduce themselves as Farron, Phil, and Riste. The sheer visual chaos hits Loki so hard he can barely keep his footing. Then it hits him, the other 3 are here too, which means all 6 goddesses have shown up right in front of him. There's Farron, the goddess of harvest, beaming so fiercely bright it feels like you might go blind. Phil, the goddess of life, wears a soft smile that spills nothing but pure, roaring compassion. And Set, the goddess of commerce, under a mysterious, sharp-eyed stare. Loki can barely breathe, because the divine presence slams into him so hard he has to cover his face completely. The crushing weight of it all hits harder than he ever trained for. But one of the goddesses snaps his attention back, trapping him in place with a surge of power before he can escape. Farron, the goddess of harvest, grabs him and shoves him into a chair like she's done waiting. He's left speechless when a table simply appears out of thin air. She slides him a steaming cup of tea and urges him to finally settle in, like he belongs there. Loki can only stand there, totally stunned, like he can't believe the sudden kindness he's getting. He jolts into a strange void, and a ring of goddesses gathers, admiring how flawlessly he handled the other 2. The first 3 goddesses swore they'd stay on guard, but once they heard his story, the tension finally melted and they let themselves relax. Farron closes the distance, grinning as he tells her, "See, I'm not a threat, I just want to be friends." But her razor-sharp stare throws Loki into a full-on spiral of flustered confusion. She yanks back stunned, her mind's eye can't even pierce his soul directly. Loki shoots the question, "So I'm in a soul state right now," and she beams back, cheerfully confirming it. She tells them since we can't touch his body, we didn't drag him here, we yanked his soul straight into this place. Loki's gut drops, because when he realizes this, he knows his body is totally exposed again back in that church. But another goddess leans in and reassures him. She's been using time magic to choke the world outside down to a crawl. He blurts out whether this insane power is a skill, and she beams, gladly confirming it. The moment the truth lands, his heart races. Maybe he can learn those Chait-level abilities straight from the goddesses themselves. She tells him not everything can be done, but don't miss this. The potential is absolutely there. Loki raises his cup for a sip and thoughts spiral wildly through his head, hunting every possible outcome. The goddess leans in close and spills it. She's just as curious about him as he is about her. She closes the distance and tells him straight to the point that they want the same thing, knowledge. With a bright, warm smile, she urges him to spill it, ask about anything stuck in his head. He's totally flustered, and his brain is scrambling to make sense of what's happening. He's trying to play it cool, but that divine hospitality hits him way too hard. He leans in close, eyes locked, demanding to know the skills he's been daydreaming about for ages. She tells you some skills don't get learned from lessons at all. They're forged through real life, one experience at a time. But Loki suddenly clocks it. There's got to be an entire new class of powers out there. He straight up asks which special skills get handed to him, not the ones he has to earn. The goddess leans in and declares it. These abilities aren't just tricks, they're stitched into your soul itself, one of a kind. The idea of soulbound powers that are truly his alone makes his heart blaze with pure, electrifying excitement. The goddesses straight up said these powers don't come from nowhere. They're the handiwork of a higher being named Felza. That name hits like a bell. Loki snaps his head up and fires off, "Who's this Felza?" Loki can't help but wonder if it's really okay for them to hand over their trust that easily. He still remembers that first look at Rhea, like she already wrote this world off as a hopeless failure. But Farron just bursts into laughter, and his blunt honesty turns out to be the joke. As soon as the first misunderstanding clears, he instantly wishes he'd never talked so much. And after everything he's been through, he knows trusting management almost never ends well. The goddesses told Fels, "No matter what you're planning, we're just here to steer this world. We won't touch the outcome ourselves." Loki snaps to the reality that he might have gone too far and the panic starts. What if they're judging him right now? But Phil, the goddess of life, just stares at him with a soft, gentle gaze. She flashes a warm smile and tells him straight up that the way he cares about their feelings makes him an absolute kind soul. That surprise compliment smacks Loki so hard he's instantly thrown off, completely flustered. He's grumbling because he still can't get used to them reading his mind. Farron grins and tells them, "Sure, I'll answer your questions, but first you've got to ask me something." Loki shot a nervous glance over his shoulder and asked what they could possibly want to know. She leans in and asks, "Have you ever heard of a whole world called Earth?" Loki freezes in shock, finally admitting, "Yeah, that's the world I came from." Another goddess finally gets it, but Loki snaps, "Yeah, so what does that even have to do with any of this?" Farron breaks it down. Earth is just one of Felsa's many worlds, and it's their biggest win of all. Loki is thrown by her own jealousy, but she pushes it aside and tells him the real talk is about to start. She tells him that this world leaned too hard on magic and skills, so its civilization choked on stagnation, and it's slowly fading away one day at a time. So they drag souls from Earth, praying their sick advanced knowledge will finally save this world from the disaster waiting at the end. She leans in and asks, "Do you know Takuya the hero, the other soul that got summoned from Earth?" Loki finally clicks and realizes why every weird inconsistency he's been clocking is happening at all. Earthlings were dragged into this world to kickstart its development like a shot of adrenaline. But if that's true, then what in the world is he really doing here? While everyone else rallies people to save this world, he's out here doing one thing, fighting for himself. He leans in and demands they tell him exactly what he's supposed to do. One of the goddesses just snaps her gaze back and shouts his name. He's stuck between two worlds, and he doesn't have a clue how he's supposed to live this brand new life. For him, the only real world was the one he could reach inside a game. A brutal memory, his family cut him loose, and suddenly he was thrown into a reality he could barely survive. He still remembers a time when he had zero honor, no trophies, and not a single thing to prove his worth. He'd spent his whole life locked away as a shut-in, clueless about the real world and offering nothing but inexperience. He can't help but stare at that acorn-headed god, wondering what on earth someone like him is even doing on that god's radar. A soft voice slices through his memories and yanks him straight back to the present. Loki drops his gaze and admits with a bitter honesty that he might not be any help to them at all. But the goddess softly takes his hands and tells him he doesn't have to think that way. She tells him everyone else is already pitching in with what they know, so you can finally kick back, relax, and just live your new life. Everyone else jumps in too, saying they'll be super grateful if he spots a way he can help. One of them jeers that it's asking for the moon to demand a favor after he's already put him through all that torment. Loki lifts his gaze and starts thinking hard about what he could do for them. The goddess of commerce bursts in and tells him, "Because you're from Earth, your life already holds worth, and I'll be right there to help you." The goddesses flash one last bright, cheerful smile, like they're sealing the deal. But Loki can't shake the feeling she's pushing way too hard. Like she's got an angle, and Loki just wants to know what she's really trying to get. But for now, he clamps down on his suspicions and keeps them locked inside. With one last wave, he thanks them for their time, and that huge weight finally slips off his shoulders. He admits he might not be able to pull off some massive, grand move, but he's ready to jump in and help any way he can. He still remembers his old life. Every time he rushed, everything crashed harder. So he sinks a deep breath, then makes up his mind. No more rushing, just slow, solid, steady moves from here on out. With a fresh burst of purpose, he locks onto the very first step waiting right in front of him. He bursts into the guild and yells that he's here for his meeting with the guild master. Meanwhile, the other hunters are already whispering and snickering, because why would the guildmaster saddle a rookie with a personal request? Loki just lets out a heavy sigh, like he knew this kind of attention was coming, but it still drives him insane. Yargov slides in from behind him, grinning as he tells him the rumors won't last, they'll burn out and fade away. He warns that there'll always be people who shove their way in and try to mess everything up, and Loki clearly gets that feeling way too well. The guildmaster motions Loki to follow and our excited hero blurts, "Can I check the back rooms?" Yargov confirms it right when Loki's grin lights up, because he's always dreamed of getting a look behind the curtain. But the room is a total disaster, paper shreds and paperwork mountains everywhere, and Amanda's buried alive under stacks of documents. Yargov leans in and tells her it's all part of the request. He's demanding Amanda light the way ahead. Loki can only stare, his curiosity has hit full blast. Amanda stands at the top of a shadowy staircase and tells everyone, from here on out, every step is a secret. Yargov jabs a finger into the blackness and drags Loki straight into the guild's most forbidden backroom. And Loki's gamer brain goes into overdrive the second it happens, convinced this is the moment a secret event is about to kick off. As they drop lower, the guildmaster leans in and tells him the thing he's about to see was uncovered 6 years ago in the Palmyra forest. He tells them the gear is so damn sensitive that he's been guarding it under lock and key himself. Loki slips around the corner, and the excitement in him keeps swelling with every step. Yargov flips open a case and dumps a sneaker, a cracked smartphone, and a watch inside, then fires the question, does Loki recognize any of them? Loki's face says it loud, yeah, he's 100% got it. His mind is racing, because every single one of these things is supposed to live on Earth, not out here. Yargov leans in and asks, can I explain what this is? Then immediately offers to let him take a closer look at them. But Loki stalls, completely stuck. He has no clue how to even start telling them about his whole world. He whips around to Amanda and the realization hits. She must have known he was from another world the whole time. But she finally admits she only heard about it this morning, and that's why the items are treated like top-secret artifacts. Yargov leans in and reassures him. Yeah, the government knows about those items, but he's got zero plans to expose Loki. Loki gets how serious this is, nods and promises to spill what he knows, starting with the very first item. But he kicks things off by acting clueless, straight up saying he has zero clue what that weird glass plate is. Yargov pins him down and fires back, demanding to know if he's really, truly sure he doesn't recognize it. Loki stuttered out the truth. Those words to describe something like that don't even exist in this world. He scrambles to explain this idea, but it feels like trying to describe the universe itself. Purely impossible, yet he won't stop. The guildmaster tries to follow it, and it's so mind-bending it practically fries his brain. Yargov shuts it down with a blunt truth, recreating that tech just isn't happening, and Loki nods along, admitting it's smarter to throw in the towel for now. He admits that even if he understood the mechanics, the core rules of this world are just totally alien. Yargov can't stop wondering what kind of mind-blowing, advanced civilization Loki crawled out of. Loki paints this wild vision of a world where magic is gone, and scientists pry open the universe's secrets with experiments and pure reason. The sheer size of that idea blew Yargov and Amanda completely speechless. Then Loki's face lights up out of nowhere as he strides straight to the next item. He says the phone's a no-go, but the watch, that's a whole different game. He calls out the truth, this world already has clocks, they're just giant, and the nobles keep their hands on them. He straight up explains that the original versions were spring-wound, exactly like the ones from his own world. Yargov fires back about smaller versions, and Loki confirms it. Pocket watches really do exist for royalty. With a cocky grin, Loki tells them it's nothing, just a tiny clock strapped to a leather band. He bounces over to the sneaker and blurts out, all fired up, that it's a running special shoe built for speed. With a wild grin, he swears that if they copy its dimensions, they can cook up a way more comfortable shoe. Yargov just nods and thanks him, letting that sharp, valuable insight sink in as a calm, meaningful understanding hangs between them. Loki shoves the box back with a smug shrug, admitting he got a bit carried away, especially for someone with zero expertise. As Amanda marvels at how light the shoe feels, Loki clocks it. Today the guildmaster is talking with way more emotion than usual. Now he gets it, Yargov isn't trying to build this world just like the goddesses said. And he's left staring at the ceiling, desperate to figure out what he can possibly do to make a difference. Amanda tilts her head and fires off a question. Her face says nothing, but the tension screams. So Loki steps in and promises to show them the tools he smuggled over from his own world. He hustles them back to his inn and swears, since I'm the only guest here, you're completely safe. Yargov fires, where's Amanda? And Loki shrugs as he says she's out all day, running errands and disappearing from the radar. He agrees to let the guildmaster take a fast peek at his stuff before she comes back. And with a grin, he spreads out his tiny stash of modern tools from his old world. Yargov freezes in shock when he spots a calculator that still runs, and calls it the next national treasure. He remembers the other relics telling him, flat out, that with his deep knowledge he'd been chosen to lead and oversee them all. Loki can't stop noticing how wildly the guildmaster is buzzing about all of this. He clocks the man's reaction with a sharp, curious look, like he's piecing something together in real time. With a proud grin, he unveils his final item, a fully functional flashlight. Yargov's like, wait, is this some kind of light magic? And Loki just deadpans, nope, it's only a battery-powered LED. The guildmaster stared at the blazing light with pure disbelief, demanding how in the world something like that could even happen. Loki tries to steady him, but the guildmaster is visibly drowning in all the insane possibilities. Just then, Amanda burst back from her errands, grinning like sunshine. But the second the flashlight beam slams straight into her face, her good mood gets ripped to shreds. Once the chaos finally calms, Loki scrambles to wrestle the conversation back into control. He admits some things can't be remade, but then smirks and tells you he's got other bombshell ideas. Yargov leans in hard, eyes sharp, and nods along like the boy just nailed the truth. And that's why he couldn't wait to show him one last secret from his world. He holds up a plain sheet of paper, proof of a technology that anyone here could copy and build. Yargov finally realizes that mass-producing paper could flip their whole society on its head. But Loki makes it painfully clear. The real nightmare is cracking the how and actually making it work. With a smug grin, Loki promises he can pull it off, because he's built something just like it since he was 7. He suddenly remembers that easy elementary school project, crushing and melting old milk cartons until they turned into a brand new material. He breaks down the whole process, grinning like he's got the perfect ingredients to recreate it. Yargov and Amanda stare in awe, realizing that paper could spark a revolution in how information spreads, and flip their whole world upside down. The Guildmaster wastes no time. He demands that Loki show them everything he knows, and Loki jumps at the chance, ready to teach. Loki swears he doesn't want any reward, then fires back. Can I show the Guildmaster something in return? The old man practically gasped like a kid on his birthday, totally locked in on Loki's flashy new gadgets. Yargov admits he doesn't get it all yet, but the moment he lays eyes on the boy, curiosity hits him like a punch. Then his mind snaps to another stranger from beyond the world, and he demands Loki spill everything he knows about the hero Takuya. The name hits like a lightning bolt, and Loki snaps. This legendary hero had to be from Earth just like him. Yargov leans in and asks Loki if he'd even want to hear about the other people from his world.